good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. How are you guys doing tonight? Oh my goodness, we have a wonderful show for you guys. I have done some extensive coordinate remote viewing sessions for this one. I've been remote viewing for a week now. Literally a week, actually. I have done 4 different sessions on this target tonight. It is extremely thorough, and it's something that I had never heard of. I had heard of lenticular clouds, and those are those clouds, y'all, that look like UFOs. And this is not that. It's a little bit different, but we're going to talk about that tonight. And Barry Littleton, of course, he is a fantastic researcher. He tasked me with the coordinate remote viewing target, actually 4 separate targets of the Sirian Lenticular Spacecraft. And some of y'all might have heard about this. Okay, y'all know I chase Bigfoots for fun in the woods, and I've had some UFO encounters and ET encounters personally, but I'd never heard of this one. Okay, and it's really cool. And I think actually it might be extremely important when we talk about the bridge between ET contact and humans, and when all that's going to occur, and how it's going to occur, and who's here to help with it. And that's what this target tonight is all about. And you guys, you don't want to miss this one. Go get the popcorn, y'all, and get ready. Buckle up. We're going down a massive rabbit hole tonight. I've got a lot of information and a lot of data, and so I can't wait to share it with all of you guys. Okay, if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and everything I'm doing, please go over to the cryptidhuntress.com. You can find all my archived shows, my calendar of events, and whatever else you need over there at thecryptidhuntress.com. Also, all the data is in my Patreon over at, on patreon.com. Just look up the Cryptid Huntress, and all 4 targets with all the raw data is posted there if you guys would like to get a glimpse of what that looks like. And all the other targets that I've ever done publicly are all listed there. And the links to all the shows that I did on those targets as well. They're all there. And I have some extras as well. I have some targets that I've posted there that I've never talked about publicly before. So you have to dig through a little bit, but you'll find them in there as well. So also, I do have a shop. If y'all like jewelry and stuff, y'all go visit War Woman Goods. And thank you guys for all your support. It does mean the world to me. Okay, well, let's get to our show tonight, because we have a lot to discuss, and I have Barry Littleton here with me, and I wanted to read this for you guys so you kind of get an idea of what we're talking about tonight. The Sirian Lenticular Spacecraft is said to be a large etheric and physical craft. So it's not only physical, solid, it's just like those Bigfoots. What do we say? That they're flesh and bone and they're interdimensional. Okay, well, this ship is actually kind of like that, y'all. So it's a large etheric and physical craft that is approximately half the size of Earth's diameter. It is a living, partially organic Legion mothership, chiefly built by the Sirians. It can manifest in several different dimensions, and it's holographic. This massive ship has been repaired by multiple civilizations and has helped in its reproductive cycle with another ship in its belly, which is wild. This fascinating mothership is said to be in the sky for humanity's benefit. Extraterrestrials reportedly believe that world governments would attack the ship out of fear if they were aware of this ship's presence. Humanity is encouraged to raise their consciousness before direct contact takes place with the extraterrestrials, and when humans can manifest freely. They say that advanced technology will amplify the ability for humans to utilize benevolent contact with extraterrestrial civilizations and make it more tangible and prepare them for physical contact with the extraterrestrials. And the Sirians are here or there to become the bridge, to be the bridge between humans and the ancient alien civilizations with the use of this Sirian lenticular spaceship. I know that's a lot, and it sounds just mind-blowing. And we want to know, is this real? What is this? Barry has a really interesting video that we've put into the chat tonight. Barry has posted it a couple of times, and it's if you guys want to check it out on our social media as well, it's there. But check out this video that he has. And of course, Barry Littleton is a wonderful researcher, and he and I do a lot of work together. And you guys can find him over on his YouTube channel. That's Barry Littleton. And his Patreon is Barry Littleton as well. Please help me welcome to the show tonight, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Barry Littleton. Hey, Barry. Uh-oh, you're muted.
The Stress King. What's happening? How's it going, Jessica? Oh,
hey.
Thanks for having me on for this. This is an important one, I think. I want to say hello to everybody in your audience. You know, I've had so many kind people in your audience that have been in communication or will, keep in touch with me. It's really cool. Very supportive. So appreciate that. The fact that, I've been blessed enough to been on a few different platforms now, and might I say this is my favorite one, working with you.
Well, thank you.
And before we get started, first, I apologize because I know no one would know this, but I pushed you kind of hard on this one.
Oh God, yes you did.
we went hard on this one, and it would be a deep dive plus. And there's reasons I wanted to do that. One is that I'm convinced that there are entities that are interfering with remote viewing right now because it's a hot topic. If they're giving us religions and doing all this other things, we know that they can influence us in various ways. Okay, right. So I always make sure that I do protections over the coordinates, over you, over the entire thing before we go into most of these. All right, I believe it's safe. That's more precautionary. I know a lot of people aren't really doing that. You know what I mean? So I think that's important. But this one, not just on some of the coordinates that I gave you, were they protected like that also, but then also some of them I gave you weren't. Just because I don't want my personal wishes or beliefs to interfere with the pure data that you get. I believe that's what's kind of going on right now. Sometimes we can want something to be so real that it starts manifesting or something. I made sure that this was devoid of this. And number two is I wanted to know, because right now we've got a whole narrative that's being formed. And I'm not trying to start a war or anything, but not everything is SSP related. Okay. And when dealing with this, the fact that it deals with virtual reality scenario type of technology and holograms to a degree, there's a very correlating deal. And for me, I have a personal interest in this. All right. And I gave you one of the videos. It's one of my experiences, one of my adult onset experiences. The second one I had involved 4.5 missing hours of time. I was exposed to a type of a technology that they were calling a synaptic helmet, was what they were putting in my mind. A synaptic helmet that was giving me a better frame of reference for the contact. Being that these beings this was like what you would call a conscious ship also. So when they start manifesting, when a ship like that manifests and meets us halfway, even then there's distortions. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that's what this was. And that I gave you a picture of that picture, that helmet thing. And it tripped me out because they were telling me that they were calling it virtual reality scenario type of technology, the VRST. That's what I call it. Okay. And first of all, the thing was way too big for my head, as you can see there.
Looks like you went to the beauty salon.
Type of, the artificial intelligence. Everybody talks about that now. There was a portion of that involved in this, and I tripped out. And I live also, except for I'm from the air capital of the world, technically. And there's a big Air Force on the side of my town. And I was tripping out. I didn't think that what happened to me is negative, but these beings are telling me in my mind to be careful because this technology has been distorted by lower vibrational beings or civilizations to trick people. So I got scared and freaked out kind of. And then, after the contact experience is over, I started, trying to research everything I could always. Obsession kicks in real quick for me on these experiences. It's like the coolest field trip you could go on in that way. But I came across the work of Dr. Carla Turner. Excuse me. I gave a couple of pictures of her too, also, and it was the book she had did. She did Taken, and Taken was that was the one that got me. Masquerade of Angels. Look, she did not have good experiences, and she died under kind of negative, mysterious circumstances. So did her husband. And she was talking about the alien agenda, which is always questionable, and more than that, virtual reality scenario technology and screen memories, and getting tricked by that stuff. And then so I went real deep with that. That's what got me into hypnosis, really, to find out if I've been exposed to screen memories or not. I didn't think so, but I want to know for sure, and how to get screen memories and meet somebody who's, professional with that, knows how to deal with that. So anyway, so that gives me an interest in all that. That's one reason why. Another thing would be this ship, after damage, was not just repaired by multiple civilizations, but multiple civilizations were joining with the creation of another ship inside the belly of this craft, that they say that's the most physical part. So anyway, so I just want to just lay out preference of why I'm very interested in this for that reason. And also, excuse me, I'm sorry, way too excited on that one. You're gonna get the pow pow pow. Jeez. Feel like Flash Gordon.
Judy chop.
The wood beast was sticking his hand down there. My dad told me recently, he said, I always hope that we're in that movie, was so terrible. I hope the wood beast would get him and he would get to leave. Oh gosh. Anyway. But when dealing with this type of contact, I think it's really, really important. Back in the early 90s, maybe around 92, 93, Louis Farrakhan had described this craft also, and being aborted. And he had said that it was orbiting above the Earth and that it moved. And that's what they're telling you there, that this thing, he kept describing it being similar to Ezekiel's wheel within a wheel. But if you look at what they're saying about this craft, it's not just spherical, but the upper part is more astral, ethereal, and how it changes, and then down to the bottom, which is third dimensional. Anyway, so
that's wild.
I'm shut up now. I'm shut up for a long time because I'm sorry that I drilled you on this, but that's why I wanted to know. One was it real? And I thought it was. Okay. And I'll tell you why. So I've got to shut up here. But I've had several clients that I've regressed that have described being on board this thing. And it's not an SSP thing they're talking about, but it's something similar. There's programs within programs. We know that.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
but this is a different one. It's the one that you've got these Sirians or different beings that are doing. And these people have described that to me. And what's weird is when you get somebody in a regression and they're doing something that's not about the ET regression, or it's a different type of hypnosis, you know what I mean? And this stuff starts coming out. You're like, whoa, you got to deal with it. And they don't know anything about SSP or this type of stuff. You got to take this. It is what it is. So that gives me another reason I wanted to know, okay, are they right? Or is this a trick? Is it SSP related or is it not? Like the evidence is showing so far. The video says it's not. The people I've dealt with that were on board said it wasn't, even though they didn't know what the heck of Sirian Lenticular Spacecraft was. Okay? And so I wanted to know what you got. That's why I gave it to you to examine it from all those coordinates from different angles of the same target and different references. And it's incredible. You did a great job. So thanks. And I apologize for being a butthole on it. Not a butthole, just demanding.
You've been way worse. You've been way worse, Barry. You weren't bad on this one. I didn't mind. But at least we spread it out over a whole week. You know what I mean? You were way worse. That missing persons cluster one was rough, man. That was a bad one. But we needed the data for that too. These are actually pretty important. I mean, I know the missing person one to me that's my soapbox that I stand on. Is trying to figure out where all these missing people are going. And I'm in national parks all the time. So that's important for me. This is important to you. This is important for all of humanity, actually. After I did some research on this today and I listened to that video that we have put in the chat, everybody, if y'all would like to watch that video, I recommend you watch it after the show because it's over an hour. So you'll miss this show if you go watch it right now. But it's a good video. And it was in another language, right, Barry? And so it's like kind of a robotic voice because they're having to change the language on it. So.
I'll tell you what, that video got sent to me 5 years ago after I made a video I forgot to download, put on there. It's on my channel, though. It's called Space Organism Reproductive, UFOs Reproducing. The ones that organic craft that can probably reproduce themselves, and I believe do, or what we can also call UFO mitosis, they call it sometimes also, which is a similar how these ships or organisms and they reproduce. I put that video out. That was 5 years ago, and someone sent me this one, but it was not in English at all. It was in Romanian, and there were other videos on that channel too, and they were all very good, but that one's the best. And I waited. It's like, man, I can't understand any of this. I emailed back, and they wound up sending me one that is subtitled. Okay. And I could see what I was like, wow. And then finally somebody put that one up you got there, and I had copied it because I got to tell you, it kept every channel that was presenting that information, which was them several times, they got canceled out quick. That information was sequestered. That's why I was so nervous. Never before when you go, what is it? What is it? Do I say I'm a little bit nervous about this one? That never happens. Has it ever? And that's why I was like, man, because I didn't know, but Spirit's wanting this revealed, regardless of what the data you got, where I was supposed to put this one out there. So I've not personally been on board this thing, but it has so many characteristics that video does in tune with what I've actually experienced in my encounters personally. So it kept my attention, to say the least. Cool.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I want to thank Elise Tanner for that super sticker. Thank you so much for that. And before we go further, I want to also thank Kent Baxter and Jackie. I saw you become a member of the Hunt Club as well. Thank you for that. Yes, Kent says, Barry and Jessica, questions for both of you. I've heard that remote viewers are unable to see past 2030. Anything to this? I don't think I've ever had any issues. But I don't know. No, I hadn't.
That's interesting. I never heard that. I wonder if it's connected to like John Teeter or something like that. Or
I've never. I have heard that, but I don't. I don't know what kind of validity there is to that. I'm not sure. So, I know that I have definitely remote viewed into the future for sure. So, I don't know about that.
Drop this wood? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't think I've had any problems with it. So maybe like the United States and who knows? I don't know. We'll have to use it. We'll have to do some remote viewing targets for after 2030. How about that? We'll do that. But okay. So the only thing that I was familiar with was the lenticular, and the spacecraft lenticular clouds. Okay, Barry, and so we have to bring that up tonight because that's what a lot of people think of when they hear the word lenticular. We think of those clouds that look like UFOs, like motherships, and a lot of people are convinced, dead set, on these lenticular clouds being UFOs in the sky. You know all about that, right?
Well, it's interesting. It's cool because I tell you, I didn't go public till 2014, and several things I got mocked on that I talked about, things that have proved that are so hip now. It's interesting. So somebody, I guess, has to take the arrows, right? But for a long time, I've been saying, okay, like the craft I've been on board, one specifically that has the gyrosphere, looks like C6, and the gyro thing around it. I'm sorry, I'm not going to pull out that picture.
Oh, you said the pictures?
But with that one, I didn't send you that one. But the thing is that actually, like for example, if that's over, that's a lenticular cloud. So if you have one of the UFOs, okay, that is, let's say, hovering over water, quote unquote USO, but it's hovering over. A lot of people have seen that. And I used to watch people saying or read people saying that they had them hovering over their pools sometimes. And what they're doing is from the water, they're extracting the prana, the energy, the orgone energy from the water.
Oh, wow.
And then you see, like in the one I had showed, which is that, gosh. Anyway, but the once that energy actually, like for this engine I'm talking about, it's this gyroscopic engine, and it goes up into the column. And what it is, they actually polarize that life energy into a polarized light. Okay, and then they can actually use it as a gravity modification power for the ship, all sorts of stuff. And you have crew members that do that also. Now the thing is that once that process, something about that process has a byproduct. Sorry, I was looking for that picture, but I don't have it. Everybody's seen it. It's got the golden light coming out. I've showed it a dozen times.
Oh yeah,
I probably sound like a cookie cutter. Anyway, that actually can be used as a modification field, gravity field around the craft itself. All right, so that's just one way to look at that, and the energy. But the conversion process creates this type of a mist. Okay, and that mist can be, they use it for cloaking sometimes. That's just one of the byproducts of that conversion process, and that creates lenticular clouds. So I'll give you advice, anyone that, when you see a cloud, whether it appears to be a lenticular one or not, if it has rainbow stripes in it, we've all seen those, a cloud that just, you got 10 clouds, and one of them just has these rainbow bands in it. You know, look at that. Use your gazing techniques to look at that cloud. And, you know, our eyes emit radiation and they dissipate clouds. Okay, so if you actually know how to do that, dissipate the cloud and watch something take off out of it. That's another conversion process, is it creates that rainbow effect inside the cloud. So it may not be lenticular, but if you see that, just pay close attention. Food for thought.
I just saw a Bigfoot dwarf. He said that I think he said Mount Shasta gets those all the time. And I lost his comment there, but I think he said Mount Shasta gets those a lot. Yeah, oftentimes over mountains. I had a whole bunch of pictures, and I only got a couple of them uploaded. So,
and you know, not all lenticular clouds are obviously UFOs, but you have some that are, you know, cloaked vessels.
Yeah, they definitely look like UFOs, and like fleets of UFOs sometimes too. So, yeah. I mean, this is all really new to me as far as the Sirian Lenticular Spacecraft goes. Now, what you had mentioned, and you know, I think I said this in the beginning of the show when I was doing the intro. I mean, this is ancient. They're talking about how different civilizations of extraterrestrials have been working on this ship for millennia, probably forever. And it's like an ongoing project all the time. And it even bursts other ships, like it's organic, and it bursts, like has babies. Like what is that about?
You know, here's what's fascinating, okay? Because there's so much data. When we get to the data, it's going to be a minute. It's great. There's so much of it. But something that kept coming up on multiple of the targets was attack. And that could be interpreted many ways to the person that, because it's blind, you know what it is. But that attack would be what they said. And it's so interesting, it went there between the Sirian civilization, and they called the reptilians, but they didn't say from where. They didn't say Dracos. They just said the reptilians, the evil reptilians is what they said. And they said that they attacked that craft and created this huge hole in the belly, which is more the third dimensional physical part. And it's this rip and the tear that was the size of Australia. And the way it was repaired was that you have these benevolent civilizations. They kept using that word. So I know this is going to get already axed by a lot of people. They don't like that. Gotta be benevolent. Gotta be dark. Evil. You know what I mean? But the benevolent civilizations were getting together, and how they didn't, and they started healing it through plasma, generating plasma between themselves and from the star that was in a rotation faction that sealed this rupture. It was fascinating what they were saying, but how even though these civilizations are benevolent and higher, they don't work together, all of them, because there's not a reason. They only come together when there's a reason. And that rupture and that war was a part of it on that craft that so many had worked on. And when they start describing the different kind of craft that were inside the belly moving around, isn't it fascinating? The different twisting diamonds put together that are twisting, and all these different life forms, you know? So, I mean, that's this thing. And I think this is important because we have to take our modality, expand it a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're programs and programs. Some of these programs are beneficial to a degree. Not all of them are this negative thing based on airy body, wireless body area network. That's an issue right now, along with, you know, all this neurotechnology. It's a real issue right now. And the way people are getting implanted and nano dust and all this crap.
Neuralinks.
It's getting, it's getting crazy.
It is. Oh my gosh, Renee says they have ships in them 100% of the time. Renee's got a little he's got some good knowledge on this stuff, but I mean, it would seem like it. It does look like they got ships in those clouds for sure. So thank you for being here. I appreciate that. And okay, well, can we talk a little bit about Sirian?
I gotta say that's not true. I disagree with that. Lenticular clouds are lenticular clouds. They don't all have craft in them. That's not true. You can't say that. And I'd like to know what study that's based upon. Honestly, some of them do, but they don't do. You know what I mean? And for that example, how come nobody talks about the rainbow effect when I mention that? See what I mean? That's a fact of that conversion process I'm talking about. And it's that conversion process is what they use for the cloaking. You can't say they all have that, though. Some are actually natural lenticular clouds. That's like saying all cumulus clouds are thunder clouds. You can't.
Well, they all have water in them, I guess.
Those are nimbus clouds. Right. I don't need to be disputing anyone. I'll respect everybody. Some things just don't,
Well, you just never know, though. You really don't. Okay, well, let's talk about the Sirians. Can I ask you who exactly are the Sirians? Because I've started this whole journey, I guess, where I spoke. The first time I ever spoke publicly was at the camp disclosure with you, and that's where I first started learning about what star seeds are. Okay, and because it was the star seed awakening or the star seed reunion, and I was like, what the heck is a star seed? And I started learning about it, and so there's a lot of people on this earth right now who believe that they are from other planets. They've come here to do, I guess, raise the vibration of the planet, right? And so the go-to, a lot of the people that I hear say that they believe they're from another planet are the Sirians, the Lyrans, the Palladians is a big one, and I don't know, even some Dracos and some Reptilians and stuff are sprinkled in there as well. So who exactly are the Sirians, and what's their backstory? Like what is their history in a nutshell?
One is you're dealing with a large area of space, and so there's like several different species, and I think we make these classifications. The thing about people, classifications start living, they develop a life of their own. You know what I mean? But as far as the Sirians, the first time I had heard about the Sirians is, I'm sure most people, it was from the Doggone and their knowledge of Sirius B and the Nomo. And the Nomo were the fish beings. Okay, and we know a couple of shows ago, you and I were discussing Credo Mutua and what he had said about the Nomo, and how that when their ship, when it came down, it created all this water started flowing down from the valleys into creating this large pond, and this ship landed in it, floated for a while, and then a thing extended, and the Nomo walked out on this plank. And he said that they couldn't walk that well. They were these fish beings, but they were walking. Okay, so I don't know if that's like Daryl Hannah. If they get dry, if they have legs until they get wet, that turns into fins or not. But there are others that were swimming around, and that's the first I had heard about Sirius, and the Nomo were supposed to be from Sirius, and just about that story, just something we should throw in. Again, that's where the leader was. They were all teaching for a while. You had different tribes watching, and then the leader came out with that, went back and came out or pulled out that technology and created suicide right there on the plank. And then everybody took him and basically cooked him, and they shared him as a feast. Both the tribes and the Nomo, everybody ate him. Ew. And then they said this was done to say that once y'all overcome fear on this planet, we will come back and maybe help you become part of Galactic again. That was Credo's deal with that. Anyway, that's the beginning of the Sirians. The first I had heard of them. Then I'd heard other things about them being a lot of melanin dominant beings there as well, black ETs in that area specifically. Okay, from some of the exoplanets in there, and Sirius B also. And then I gave you a couple of pictures of some pictures that other Sirians that have been reported by contactees. Sorry, I think I went totally overloaded you with pictures. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. Well, I can tell which ones they are. Here we go. Here's one. That guy looks like something out of Star Trek.
Yeah, it's I can't say that's what they look like,
Just
but
saying.
hey, you know, yeah, I thought it was just interesting though, nonetheless, and just to see different representations of them, you know. But that's always what caught my attention. Another one, okay, another thing is, when I first started hearing about cat beings, they were supposed to be from Sirius, the Sirius region, and then now it seems they've turned into Lyra now. Heck, even the Thundercats are supposed to be from Lyra now. Swear that it's never said that cartoon, but hey, whatever, I'll go
That's
with
a
the
good
flow.
one.
Yeah, Thundera was not in Lyra, but anyway, that's that's another one there. Something about that one individual has on one of those like helmet things with the radio things on it.
Looks like a little green man outfit.
And sometimes interesting insignia there, but
A snake
but
or dragon.
I'd heard this being compared to what some have called the Ebens. Like I was mentioning earlier that the first time I heard Betty Hill describe the leader of the Zetas, that he looked different than the others, that his nose was very big. I'll never forget it. She said he had a nose like Jimmy Durante. And Jimmy Durante was known as the Snoz. He had a big old nose. And she said his nose was like that. Then later on, when you go to Holloman Base, you have beings that were reported having noses like that. And they come up frequently, but they normally have on this headdress too, a type of a headdress. Mm-hmm. And that's just similar. I've seen images of them wearing something similar like that on their head also. So it's just food for thought,
Yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. I know we've actually have talked about those ETs that have the big noses and stuff. We've definitely talked about that in some of these shows that we've done. It's come up in the remote viewing or something, I guess. So very neat. Yeah, it is interesting. I think that's a dragon on his insignia, because it looks like it's got an arm or something sticking out the side of it, or a wing or something. So I don't know. I can't see. Oh yeah, there's definitely something kind of coming off the side of it. It's got a little T-Rex arm coming out the side. But nonetheless, really interesting stuff. Let's see. Are there any other pictures of the Sirians that we should pull up?
There's one that's got three different types.
Oh, here's some more right here, actually. Yeah, very cool. And and we have a picture of reptilian, Sirians, and Atlantans. Should I show that one?
Yeah,
it's right here as well.
Yeah,
kind of gives you a compare and contrast right there as well.
You know the reason why I actually had saved that, because they had the Altids there, the Lyrans, whatever you want to call them, with the thing over their head there, the triangle and the circle. And the melanated.
Wait, that comes up. That's come up in my data before, actually. The triangle with the circle in the middle of it.
On their foreheads?
Yeah, not on a forehead. It's just a symbol that's come up in my remote viewing data. I think it might have been for the star forts, actually.
The black praying mantis hybrids, melanin dominant ETs, that are the tall ones I've discussed before, that have the extra limbs, that when you meet them they do a dance. They're reported to have those on their heads. And there's others too, but that race is reported to have that. If Matthew Morning.
Yes.
Him and I did a show on JRT, and it was after that conference, and it was because he had the first time I met him, he had actually had an interaction with one of these beings, and I believe it had that on its forehead. I think. Really? I won't speak for him, but very history concerning that is quite interesting. Because you went up saying, "Man, I don't hear anybody talking about melanin dominant extraterrestrials." I met one, and we got quite the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Caleb was mentioning we're talking about the Lyrians and the Thundercats, right? And Caleb says the Gaborian, I think is how you say that, warriors were lion-headed men that David of the Bible talked about. So that's interesting. So there have been lion-headed people around for quite some time here, and whether they're from off planet, maybe, who knows? What if they were from here all along? Wouldn't that be something? Okay, well,
you've got the Sphinx too.
And the Sphinx, that's right. We've got that too. Okay, well,
of course, everybody says that was a dog man now, so he turned into a dog man, didn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. Dog man's the hot topic right now. So
haven't you heard that though? Really, it was a dog man face. It wasn't a lion.
Anubis, or I guess Anubis is a jackal, but no, I've not heard that. No, I've actually. So I've been hearing the craziest stuff too. I mean, I've seen the Sphinx drawn as like Caucasian-looking people's faces too. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, you know. That's why they say that's why Napoleon pulled the nose off that thing. Mm-hmm. It's because they're distinctively African black noses. And we see a lot of these ancient statues like that, their noses are pulled off. And sometimes their lips, because they were too Negro, too black. That's why.
I mean,
that's fact. Yeah.
Okay, well,
but you know, I'm going to get you in trouble. You start talking about this stuff. People get mad at you. We're not supposed to talk about that stuff in these advanced communities.
Oh man, well, I just talked about how all these lost civilizations have been drowned out across the United States, including ancient Egyptian settlements here by these man-made lakes. That was my show on Monday with Bryce. So we've covered it. We ain't scared to talk about it over here.
What's the city around that Lanier flood that flooded out? Wasn't that a black city?
It was. What was the name of it again? I think it started with the O. I can't remember. Yes, it was. There was a town there. It had, I think I wrote down like 250 families got drowned out, like displaced out of there, but I think it was more like 700 or something. I want to say Owensbyville. I can't remember what the name of it is. But yeah, that was it was a predominantly African American town. So. Yeah. Well, how do we want to go about this tonight? Because I have 4 separate targets, and I guess you want me to go over the data. They're all they're all kind of different. And so this is your target. You know what counts and what doesn't. Okay. Like what pertains, let's just say. Should I just go over which each of them are? And I think it's really interesting because for the stage 3 drawing for all 4 of these, I drew something different shapes. On all of them, and the last one actually looks like an ET.
Looks just like it though.
The circle with the line through it.
Paragon said too, a wheel within a wheel. You've got that on there.
Check about this one. That right there.
That one. You have another one too that has a circle in it. That one caught my attention too. But there's the other one. That
one. Maybe that one.
No.
Oh my gosh, Barry. The other one's a cube, and then this one right here looks like ET. Here, I'll show you this one. Then there's that one.
It's on the other page that has the different looking data.
Oh, you mean? Oh, I have other drawings. Okay, I was just talking about the stage 3. You're talking about this one.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that one.
You're talking about that one. Oh my gosh! See, you guys, I just want to tell the audience tonight. Barry was really stoked about this, y'all. Right, Barry? You're super stoked. I'm looking at this data like, God, this doesn't make any sense. You know, whatever. I don't know what this is. This is Barry's stuff right here. And you're just geeked. You're like, yes. You're like, wait, yes, keep going. Do another one.
Well, I needed to know. I need to know one because, like I said, I've had clients that have been there, and we hear so much fantastical stories. I'm not trying to take anything from that, but we need to deal with all types of contact. This is something slightly different, you know, rather than not saying it's 100% positive, but at least it's something more along the lines of people being targeted individuals is different. You know what I mean? And so I think it just needs to be brought to light. And the fact that I've heard nobody talking about this unless I have them in regressions. Okay. And then they're not calling it this thing, but they're describing it like that video did. Okay. And going through process like that. And the fact that it involved holographic type of technology always worries me. Make sure that it wasn't people doing it. It wasn't, humans doing more of this targeted stuff and more of this SSP type stuff. And that's why I was really wanting to know. I was ready to prepare if it was. It was. But they said it wasn't. It appears to not be. I think that means something, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I like it. I think you're. I like the way you think, Barry, and we're actually doing this work to get to the bottom of some big. I mean, this is major actually when it comes to human alien contact and how it's going down, because we've been, you always make fun when I'm like, oh, there's that fake alien invasion happening sometime soon, and we've been talking about how, well, one day in the near future, probably there could be some kind of weird psyop or something where, they put holograms and stuff out that looks like aliens, or looks like something that's really scary mixed with some real stuff. And we're going to be so confused. It's going to put the whole world it's going to turn us upside down, the whole world. And so,
you can get me in trouble. I agree. I agree. When you say the fake invasion, I believe they're trying to push us to that timeline. A lot of people got upset with me when I said I thought the Phoenix Lights was a holographic illusion. I thought it was somebody testing something out. And some people giving me, no, that's not true, because Farsight remote viewed it and they said they saw this and that. I watched that video. So what? I still think that it was not. I think it was not legit. You know what I mean? I think it was people testing the holographic technology, and that's why we didn't hear anything more of it. No more came of that. You know what I mean? Except for, well, I could take that back. Kurt Russell was the guy that reported it. That counts. Okay. The main guy that reported it. The first one. It was. Did you know that?
No, that's Goldie Hawn's husband, right? So I did know that.
He said he forgot all about it. He's a pilot. He forgot all about it. He's on the runway. He saw that thing. He called it in. He said he forgot all about it for some reason, which I think is interesting. Okay. And then he goes home however long later, and his wife, Goldie, is watching one of her UFO shows, and they were talking about that. And talking about somebody called in from the runway. Oh my God, that was me. That's Kurt Russell.
Wow,
yeah,
that's weird.
So Goldie Hawn is into UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Sergeant Benjamin, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of celebrities are into that kind of stuff too. I just had somebody send me my buddy Daryl. I just talked about him on Monday, and he sent me a text with there's some I don't know if he's like a security guy or what. I don't know. He works with like high level hip hop artists and stuff, and he was talking about Bigfoot and how he went into some gentleman, and this has nothing to do with our show tonight, but he got into some rich guy's house, this elitist guy, and he had like a taxiderm Bigfoot in his house, and he was talking about it. So anyways, I said that's a story for another day. Gosh, it'd be great to get that guy on my show, wouldn't it? Maybe I will. Okay, well I guess let's just get into the data for these, because we have so much data. Let's just do it. Okay. And it was Oscarville was the name of that town that Late Lanier is covering today. So RIP to everybody. My heart goes out to everybody who was affected by that. That was Oscarville. Yes. That was a tragedy that happened. And that's partly why Late Lanier is so haunted today too, Barry. Big time. Okay. So the first target, tell me exactly what these targets are, because you did kind of switch them up a little bit, right? With each target, like the first target, I mean, was it looking at from different angles, or what was your thought process on all that?
Well, the first is, looking at it as a whole, one. Another would be looking at who and what made the structure. Okay. What its origin. Number three would be, is it physical? Is it etheric, like they're saying, multidimensional, like they were saying, Well, first, number one is I'll make sure that it's real. Number two is I want to know, was it of course SSP, or was it good? All that stuff. I mean, all those are parts of the different ways of looking at it. Okay, the different targets, including also the belly. One part was the belly and the other ship that's inside of it. Okay. So all those were parts of the target, but it's all the same thing. See what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The life form inside, and it's weird, but I will tell you this: none of them was a rupture from a reptilian ward attack. I didn't put that in there. You picked that up.
Oh,
you know
really?
what I mean? It wasn't something. I was somewhat shocked to see that. I was okay. Well, that part must be real, because I mean, sometimes. Let's be honest, the stuff with the reptilians, sometimes it gets a little fantastical and a little monotonous too.
I
You know
love
what I
talking
mean?
about
But,
the reptilians.
oh, I
That's
know,
one
I
of my
know you
favorite
do. I know you do.
topics.
You love you some celebrities too, and some
I
clones.
love
And
it.
some, I
I love
know.
shape-shifting celebrities, man. I love talking about shape-shifting politicians. And I used to work with a bunch of politicians. Okay. So it just gives me joy to talk about that kind of stuff. It's just right up my alley there. Okay. But yeah, and celebrities too. Yeah. So I just, we gotta know what to look out for. That's all. That's all. And okay, well, let's get to the first target then. Okay, because to me, it didn't, these are blind targets. I don't know what they are. You just gave me a set of numbers.
This part definitely would have been the one. Was it real? You know what I mean? What was it? Was it solid in terms of dimensionally? And that would have been more your overview one right there. That one. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay, well, let's just get into it. And I'll get into some of the sensory data, and then we'll get into some of the AOL. Okay.
Cool.
Some of this is way out there, so I just may not. I mean, maybe it's not way out there. I don't know. So some of my sensory data was long, screech, piercing, blank, falling downward, used, balanced, sounds, and vibrating. And so here's some of the analytic overlay that I wrote down. I wrote down byways, high pitched sounds and noises. I picked up on a consciousness, a blank slate, a tutorial of some sort. So a tutorial. I picked up on a tower or like a ground. I wrote tower and ground, lighting and lightning. Okay, so I was seeing lighting and lightning. I wrote down drumming and humming because I was picking up on both. I was picking up on like sound frequencies or some kind of vibrational sound is what I was picking up on. And I wrote down drumming, humming, and tones. I also wrote down power and relieved of duty and let go is what I wrote down. So an outlander, whatever that is. So that was some of the stuff I wrote down. And for this target, I actually drew what looks like a box or some kind of container. So it just looks like a square, like a box. Okay, let's just call it a box or a container is what it looks like. Okay, so some of my sensory data for my stage 4. And I wrote down poking, tattered, scattered. I was picking up on like something that was whitewashed or something, and I don't know. I must have been hungry because I wrote down Waffle House. That has nothing to do with anything. That was my analytic overlay. Okay. But I was picking up on something like breaks. I was picking up on like a small town vibe or something for this one. So I don't know. I was just picking up on like a small town in my analytic overlay. I wrote down mirrored and traffic. Okay. Mirrored traffic. And I was picked up on a rumble in the jungle. Okay, like a fight or something is what I picked up on, but mirrored in traffic. And that's pretty much the majority of that data for that one right there. So I don't know. I wrote Waffle House Berry, so I had to say that. But it is, I don't know. I mean, how so, but you think that data can pertain to what we're talking about? I guess maybe the first page more so than the second.
The things about traffic, I think, is talking about not just the human factor that's coming and going, but also the different civilizations that are coming and going. And we have to remember, especially when dealing with like the UFO swarm type, and the way they said it was like a beehive almost in terms of all the different craft and things that are going around. I think you're dealing with that's what you were picking up on, that is that type. And also the fact, I don't know, the energy of it seems like some things like that you were picking up. It seemed fairly on to me. You know what I mean? At least to where, excuse me, to answer my first question, is the thing real? And is it separate what my clients have been on from something that like a program that these SSP people are describing? You know what I mean? So that was the main first things, but you were picking up things that went along with that. There was something else you said too that was like, I tell you, you're getting towards that attack already. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of mentioning it there, right? Brewing.
Yeah, rumble, like a rumble. Rumble in the jungle. It was like some kind of an attack or like some kind of fight was about to happen.
They said on that video that they were preparing because they knew that they was going to attack, and there's nothing they could do about it. That they knew it was coming, and that's why all the other civilizations already started organizing at that point before the attack actually happened. And then they came to actually repair. Anyway, you're picking that stuff up there.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's go to the next target. Okay, let's go to the next one. And okay, and so let me go through the sensory data of this one, and then we'll go through some analytic overlay. Okay, so for my sensory data for the second target of the Sirian Lenticular Spacecraft, okay, believable, impenetrable, massive, concerning, deceived, follow, attacked, dropped, negative, pierced, prosperous, and dark. That was my sensory data. What do you think so far, Barry? Sounds about right?
I was tripping. That's what I was getting very interested.
Okay.
Not what I expected either, but it went right along.
Okay, well, let's get into the analytic overlay. This is what I was seeing. So I wrote down believer, and then I wrote stop and stop it. In mass, like en mass, on mass, and in mass. Okay, mass. In control, deceived, follow through, and attacks. Follow through attacks. Drop the bomb. Roulette. I was picking up on like Russian roulette. Okay, like Russian roulette. And I heard no longer matters. I kept hearing in my head, like, no longer matters. Surmount, home, hold. I picked up on something that was running out. I wrote down running out of time. Running out of time. And this is the one where I drew that the drawing looks like something inside of something else there. Okay, so it's some kind of.
You know what that looks like to me?
What does that look like to you?
The rupture they're describing in that craft. The rupture that was done from the fight. And that's what had to be molecularly sealed with the plasma and healed and repaired.
Wow. Well, you said it really bad. You said it looks like Australia, right?
They said it was the size of Australia.
The size of Australia. Yeah. And that, I'm not saying that looks like Australia, y'all, but it's reaching. It's definitely Australia, Barry. I swear. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, sometimes it's about making correlations, right? And similarities.
Curian says it's the Batman signal. It is.
But on a serious note, I think your description of what they called that attack and the wound was and it's the living being. So, I think that was quite accurate. And you're also describing the attack being broken off and in the healing process or repair process starting, and which was done by, they said, multiple civilizations. You were describing that pretty accurate, don't you think?
I do, yeah, for sure. Well, but wait, there's more. Okay, so we're still on the second target now. Okay, so on the second, on my stage 4, let's just say stage 4 data, I wrote implode and conformity. I actually wrote down excursion and inverted, uniform and war zone. So a war zone. So that lines up with what you were saying. And I said multiples. I wrote down multiples. This is from my sensory data. And I wrote down multidimensional. Now this thing is supposed to be multidimensional, right?
Yeah.
So a war zone, multidimensional, and a multitude. So I wrote down there's a multitude of something, and something that was shocked. And I was picking up something that was like a square, and I wrote down hometown because I kept picking up on the small town vibe, like a community, like it was a community. And I was actually hearing women talking during this one. I was hearing voices like talking, but it wasn't, I can't say it was in English. It was just like, it sounded like female voices chattering. And yeah,
what kind of feelings did you get from the voices?
I felt like it was like women. I just felt like it was women sitting around like a beauty shop or something. That's the way I felt. Like I just, that was the vibe that I was getting. I was just hearing women talking.
Do they feel living or they feel AI?
Yeah. No, they were alive. They seemed like they were alive, like humans. They were humans. Yeah, human women. Actually, I did a deep mind probe, and I was like, I asked them what they were doing. I was like, what are y'all doing? You know, oops. Hey, Ben, sorry. I said, hey, what are y'all doing? And I heard, come here for a minute. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Okay, sorry. All right. I heard come here for a minute is what somebody said. I think that's why my dog just barked. She thought I was saying come here. Sorry, y'all. And so buy a brand. I don't even know what that means. Buy a brand. That's what I heard. And then underneath all that, the last thing that I wrote hoax. I wrote hoax down for some reason. So I don't know why I wrote hoax.
HOPES.
HOAX, hoax. But it was underneath the deep mind probe. It was almost like that's what they were conveying to me, something about a hoax or something. So I wrote down hoax underneath the deep mind probe. That's when I kind of shut it all down, because I was like, I mean, you know, and I've always been taught, like, don't converse with anything when I'm like remote viewing unless I'm doing a deep mind probe. And with that one, like, I don't usually do a deep mind probe if there's like a bunch of voices like that, but I did it anyway. So I don't know. But anyways, I don't know. What do you think about that? It's kind of weird, right? Because the data seemed to be pretty pertinent up until then.
The voices make me curious. It makes me curious if that's the voices of craft, voices of just inorganic beings.
Yeah.
Past.
They seemed organic. To me, it felt like women.
Like women? You said they didn't feel negative or positive? They just...
No, they didn't feel negative at all. I felt like I was just sitting around talking to some women. You know, they just sounded like they were just
play some Scrabble, something like that?
In a hair salon or something. That's what it felt like. I mean, I'm just saying what I was remote viewing. Like it was there. So it just seemed as though there were just women sitting around just gossiping, kind of, just having some fun. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, this craft is supposed to be half the diameter of Earth. This thing is gigantic. It's the size of a planet, basically. And it's just a whole bunch of ships and stuff. I mean, I don't even understand what it is really. It's holographic, right?
You've got a bunch. They say that the holographic part of it is it's a holographic model of the universe. That's why it's multidimensional like that.
Okay.
And when they describe it, it looks to me like the same way that our energy bodies are, the ethereal body and the causal body, and the way it's been described like that. But this is the ship going down, going from the top being the most highest frequency, the less dense, going all the way down to the bottom being the most dense of it. And, you know, in dealing with the people that are taking there nightly, and, you know, they described it on there kind of as there being like rows of people, lines of people.
So and humans.
That's something that my clients have mentioned.
That's weird.
That has kind of triggered me off.
Okay.
And then they describe being there and then getting this type of a training. And
that's the
thing that was almost somewhat similar to SSP, but it's not the same. They're not exactly being trained to make weapons and things like that. It's a training in consciousness.
I think it was training in getting your hair cut. It was hairdresser school or something. I don't know. I'm not kidding.
One of your dry ass jokes, Jones?
No, I'm saying it was in the data, Barry.
Am I in the Sahara Desert right now? That was a dry joke.
It was part of my data, because I did. I was like, I was listening to women sitting around talking is what I heard. They were humans. And like I said, I kept feeling like it was like a small town. I wrote small town. I kept writing small town. And both of those targets I picked up on small town data. Like, now, could those be people that are being abducted from small towns to go up there? Maybe. Who knows?
Well, just in the belly, you've got just the ET civilizations, interdimensional civilizations that are community there, and just the belly alone that are creating the other organism that's being birthed from there. Okay, and that's I've been on board one of these craft that it's a room that I called the engine room, the anti-gravity room. That's the first room I went into on this craft. Different experience. I gave you a picture of that. And the picture doesn't do it justice in terms of this room was very large, like cargo bay type of large. Yes, that's it. Thank you. It's much bigger than that appears. Okay. When I got close to that box there that was sitting at a weird angle going in with these they look like carbon tubes going into that organic wall. But it was seeing when I looked up at like a 90-degree angle or whatever it was, it made me really dizzy. That's when the temporal aphasia had started. All right. But this room was very large, and the organic nature of it, I had thought then, I was like, man, not just could they if they were going to pull somebody's car in there, they could do that, materialize a car in there, but it would be like a birthing center also, a perfect place to have, to create another craft, build one, grow one, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So, just based on the size of that, and be honest with you, the size of that room was bigger than what I saw in the sky before they took me on. Okay. So just dealing with that mentally was already messed up. But anyway, so and this reason like that, for these reasons I'm talking about now, that person sent me this video we're talking about, the correlations. Like I said, I've not been on that place, but there's certain things they're saying, or something else, Jessica, that I think that's important. They said that, I may have mentioned this already, that none of these civilizations came together until this thing was ruptured. That they're not at war or anything, they're all benevolent, but they need a reason to come together, a single focus. And that's what it was.
That's
There's
how
been
important
others,
it
but
is.
that was a real one. Yeah.
That means that it's important. It's huge. And and they're talking about how it, in that video that I watched, that we do have in the chat, y'all, if anybody wants to see it, Barry put it in the chat a couple of times tonight, and I'm sure the moderators are too tonight. But thank you to my moderators, by the way. And so they said that it's going to be they're planning to use that as a bridge for when humanity hits the highest consciousness, when we're manifesting effortlessly. Okay. And that's something that I talk about all the time. Like, let's, tune into your psychic abilities. And I'm manifesting my highest timeline, that kind of stuff. That's how we start, right? That's how we get started on all this stuff is we start manifesting. We get on our highest vibrational frequency individually. Okay. And doing all that good work on ourselves, our spiritual work. And that's how we start raising the consciousness, and you and I having these talks like this, we are sending out activations to everybody watching tonight. Okay. Whether we know it or not, they're giving us activations as well. Thank you guys, everybody that's in the chat tonight too.
And that's what it is, the shift of consciousness. Mm-hmm. You're right. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's not that, that evil is just negativity is just going to go away. The thing changed where there's so many of us that it starts really changing the frequency of everything, And I think the more work is done concerning negative identities and the negative self, the more this planet will start changing. There are different energy work and energy psychology and things that are, I think, taking on a new realm right now. Anyway, so much, Jessica, seriously, I mean, so much, there's, we've got 4 components. We've got the mind, the body, the spirit, and then the negative self. And the negative self, I've mentioned this probably a dozen times this show, so I'm going to say it again, but I got it. The negative self, we endure these traumas that are out of our control, and it fractures the negative self into these negative identities based on decisions we make during the trauma that's out of our control. And then the consciousness comes up and grabs those and puts them in the back and starts they running in the background like those things on your phone. Says it's asleep, but it's not. Those apps are still draining your battery.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And it causes us to trigger, and these negative identities react to situations in a way that's always negative to the self, as to where the spirit responds in a way that's positive to the self. And that's that's something we are actually positive beings. That part of us is still with the Creator. As energy beings, that's what we really are. And that's been, taken from us by them giving us a predator's mind, giving the predator of the mind of the enemy. Okay. You know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you said with the people, you got plenty of food around the table, but they'd be eating so quick, like it's just going to be gone. They're going to starve. That's the mind of the predator. When there's plenty of food there, it's them. And then people start hearing voices. Some of them get in. So we've got this negative self as a fire already burning. Then these beings, these negative beings, just pour some grease on there. Throw some grease on there. Flares up real good. Ain't got to do much. Anyway, sorry. Let's go back to the data, please. I'm going on some tangent.
Yeah, let's get. Okay, well, we'll go to the next target because we still have 2 targets left. Okay, we got more to talk about.
Good job on that last one, by the way. I thought that was a great one.
Okay, I had to get the right one. Okay, so I've got just 2 more. And so do you remember exactly what this target was? Like what was the angle of this one? The 2 that you gave me this week. Do you remember?
They were, one of them was definitely just the same target, but without me blessing it and protecting it. And I wanted to see just what you got out of it to make sure I wasn't influencing what you were getting. And it was absolutely straight up data. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That type of a deal. Because that way, just in case, there's all sorts of programs out, all sorts of neural weaponry, all sorts of stuff for both of us to get hit with. So it's just kind of crossing T's and dotting I's. You feel me?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into this one then. Okay. The Sirian Lenticular Spacecraft. This is the 3rd session I did. This is session number 3.
Oh, this is 3. Oh,
this is number 3. Yeah, this is the 3rd one. So this is the second. This is the first. This is gonna be the first one that I did this week.
Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
Out of 4, this is the 3rd one. Okay. Nanu. Okay. I don't know. I was holding up my fingers for some reason, so I just had to do that. All right. Okay. So some of my sensory data for this one, I wrote down purposeful, handy, important, flying reported, decline. Let's see, famished. Something I wrote: dry, clothes, interior, inside, fancy, and lavish. Okay, so for some of my analytic overlay, I wrote down purpose. I wrote down time flies, rocket, get it. I heard get it. That's what I heard. Get it. I was picking up on like a summary or a report of some sort, like a report, like somebody would write up a report. I wrote down going down. A well ran dry. Like I was picking up on like a well that ran dry. So I wrote that down. Well ran dry, or well run dry. I wrote down an inside job and the interior. Okay, so the interior. And then I heard somebody say the call came from inside the house. Okay, I heard that. And then I wrote down lavish lifestyle, lavish living, expensive, rich, and the elite lifestyle. Elite lifestyle. That's what I wrote down. And then I drew this weird thing. To me, it kind of looks like ET phone home or something. I don't know. It looks like it could be anything, but I drew something. I think I remember when I was drawing that, I thought I was looking at somebody's back or something, but it turned out to kind of look like an alien when I got done with it. What do you think about that so far, Barry?
What I was getting is that the rupture was too much for the ship to self-repair itself. It's like kind of like when a human gets shot. You're not just going to be able to sit there and self-repair with salves. You're going to have to get the bullet removed. You know what I mean? And it's similar to that. And I think that the ship itself, from the war or whatever happened, was depleted, and the energy source was depleted to repair itself. And you have these others that come in and start doing it, and doing whatever they're doing with the sun, getting the extra plasma and all the stuff that's described in that video. But that had to be done externally by other civilizations. I'm getting right now. Sorry, repair team. That's kind of what I got out of that. And also the other thing was this: when you mentioned, that's why I kept asking you. I started asking you a bunch of questions about what you were getting with this elite and the elite. Because I was wanting to know, could that possibly be the SSP part? But then you started telling me some things that made it sound like some of these people aren't the elite that we're thinking that are controlling things. There may be some that are being trained and being primed in terms of in that program. And that program, as they say there, it's all about elevating consciousness. And since it's an alien agenda, I look at it closely. You know what I mean? And is it anything that's going to benefit us or is it going to hurt us? Because right now, the general human agenda, I don't think it gets much more nefarious than that. How about you? I mean, the human agenda right now, at least, because we got so many dark factions running this place. This is such a concocted world that it's very creepy, you know. Yeah. And this stuff right here, and why, and and the main thing I was thinking, if this isn't even real, why would that video possibly be sequestered like that? And that's one of the few videos as a documentary contactee wise I really resonated with. You know what I mean? So that, that's very interesting. These things like that. But right, and that's why I was so worried about how this will go down, if we get in trouble or not. Hopefully not. But it's because people don't want this stuff out. We're supposed to be talking about. You're supposed to talk about celebrities. You're not supposed to be talking about this. You are supposed to talk about celebrities and dark forces only. You get it? And clones. Well, I know, and clones, right?
I like clones too. I talk about all of it. Yeah. Or the dog men I'm out there chasing.
You're very fair, But I thought honestly it would be nice to maybe bring something kind of at least a little bit nice to your platform. It's a little bit positive. Quite a bit positive, actually.
Yeah, I mean this is actually a really cool target tonight too. I'm digging it. So, and Skip says, "Thank you, Skip, for that super sticker. I appreciate that." He says, "You are a busy lady for this show, and it shows. Great work. Thank you, Skip. I appreciate you so much." Name. Yes, I work my buns off for this one.
Skip.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Skip. Okay. All right, well, let's go to the next page, because this is actually on my stage 4 is where I drew that one picture of what looks like. You had mentioned this earlier in the show. It's like it looks like a planet or something, and there's another one, something orbiting it, like going around it. So that I was picking up on that.
It looks to me, you know what I think it is? I think it's that other ship inside the other ship, and you're seeing the forces that were almost like orbiting it.
Ooh, it could have been.
It. That's what I picked up off that immediately.
Yeah, and it's actually got arrows. Let me take this comment down real quick. Thank you again, Skip. I appreciate that. So if y'all can see that, it's actually has arrows. It's going in a counterclockwise direction. That's counterclockwise, y'all. Okay. So I actually wrote down, so some of my sensory data, I wrote down full. This is after all the elite data, like elite luxurious lifestyle data, like something. I could just tell there was like it seemed like expensive and nice and like just high tech and stuff like that. I don't know. But I wrote down full, heavy, and toxic. Okay, some of my analytic overlay, I wrote down full load. I couldn't understand if I was like hearing full load or furlough, but I wrote down both. So it was full load and heavy load. So I wrote down full load, and then it was heavy load and orbit. I literally wrote down orbit. And I was getting more like money data, kind of like I wrote down lucrative. I also wrote down ludicrous as well, but I wrote payload. So a full load, a heavy load, orbit, and a payload. And then I wrote down snatched, and I wrote down outer space for my part of my sensory data. That was like my aesthetic impact. And then for my analytic overlay, I wrote dimensional travel. And then I heard somebody go, agreed, like that. And then I closed the target down after that. I think that was pretty much on target right there, Barry. I think that was pretty good. Dimensional travel, orbit, payload.
I kind of picked up in the beginning, though, when I looked at it then, was that you have Earth forces trying to disrupt what's going on with that thing. I don't know if that would be directed energy weapons or whatever. They're trying to do something, because there's no way you and I are talking about it's getting sequestered on YouTube. There's no way that the G-Force doesn't know about it and isn't trying to destroy it or disrupt it or something, And since we got programs within programs, it gets tricky, doesn't it?
It does. Well, in that video that you had me watch, and we got in the chat tonight, that explains what this target is. They said that it was almost as though they were talking. I don't know what year that video was made, but it's almost as though they were narrating it as though the elite or the people here on Earth, whoever's in charge, whoever they are, they were not aware of it yet, is what they were saying. But I mean, if somebody here was making a video on it, somebody was aware of it. But they said that they didn't really want this word to spread about it because they would try to destroy it.
Yeah. And I mean, if the reptilians know about it, we know that they've got factions here on Earth. Everybody goes into that. So I mean, that so that, you know, just, but you know, there's a certain point at where does some type of galactic law come into play that stops certain destructions? Just like here on Earth, how comes some of us have had advanced contact and it wasn't SSP related? We didn't go through the neural weapons, and others of us did. You know what I mean? Some of us they can't touch and mess with. Yeah. And there's reasons for that. We've got some other beings that jump in at these higher factions that we don't even know about. These higher dark forces, and you've got other higher beings than that. And stuff starts going down, especially in the quote unquote invisible realm of Earth. You know? Yeah.
That's a good question. And
you know, and you know, and what it, and the fact that they're tagging people, and I mean, I've had a client, and that's why one day on your show, I got a little irritated with somebody because they're presuming what I know when they don't know. Okay, and like, you know, like I had a client that actually was going through a deal where they're trying to actually disrupt, you know, they're trying to drive people, their contactees. They tagged this individual. It was a past life regression, and they're seeing the other planet that they're on. They're talking about they're going to incarnate on Earth, and they can actually see it on the screen. They're seeing their family, who it's going to be, and they're on a mission to help people join the collective consciousness, the collective, and to help Earth make the shift into being part of a galactic civilization again, type 1 civilization. And that's why they were coming here, to help with that. And that's what they were doing on this other planet. But then when they incarnate here, these forces already got their parents, corrupted them, made their life just hell from the beginning on forward, in everything to disrupt their psychic abilities, their contact abilities. And then they started basically putting them in a situation that was completely destructive. You know what I mean? And the way also they could be in the programs similar to what, you know, people like Arkeem and other people talk about, you know, and it's a matter of how far they get these people, and it's made to destroy your life, destroy these people on the conscious level, on the mental sanity level.
Well, also, because they can't be real, it's all about control, though, right?
Yeah.
And that's this being a slave planet.
And then then they throw in the fake alien invasion with this other stuff they're doing to contactees. And it's already nebulous enough as it is. Okay. And I want to say this again, by no means do I say, oh, contact is positive. I do not believe that. People try to label me as that. I've never said that. I think the majority of it is positive, but not all contact is positive, and not all these beings are space brothers, interdimensional brothers. Some of them are messed up. You've shown that in some of the work we've done together. TRAPPIST-1, Tony Rodriguez, all these people are talking about the slavery going on. William Tompkins, that's a very real deal. And the Milky Way is a bit behind, like a lot of these advanced culture civilizations are saying. Milky Way is kind of a darker, more primitive place. And we start looking at galaxies, we're one of what, a zillion?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Yeah, seriously, I think that's the number. They're up to like what? How many billions?
Bazillion. Oh, yeah, bazillion. What's up, Brian? Brian Minnick's in the chat with Montauk is Strange. He was here yesterday. Was that yesterday? I think it was. Yes, my days just kind of meld together now. Okay. Yes, Urso says a whole system set up to trap you here. Yeah, it could be. It's really sad that it's like those of us who are kind of here, maybe helping the collective, you know, in a bit. I mean, you got to help yourself first to help everybody else. And I've done, you know, you and I've done a lot of lot of work behind the scenes, I guess, to get to where we are at this moment in our lives, and to help.
You mean taking abuse? Know what you mean?
The forces have been completely clawing at us and have been holding us down for a long time, y'all. And I think it just, I was told a while back, a few years ago, like, it, you know, how bad do you want whatever it is, you know, how bad do you want to move in whatever direction I'm going in, you know, like, what do you want to do and how bad do you want to do it? And my goal is to help people, because I've been through things, you know what I mean? And so I'm here to share my knowledge. That's all. And I'm hard-headed as hell, by the way. Okay. And so it takes a lot to hold me down, and nobody's going to hold me down for long. I can promise you that. And it's going to take a lot more than what's come at me so far.
You know, I think that's important, you know, because right now, honestly, Jessica, and I'm seeing it, and I know you're seeing it too.
Yeah.
These communities are starting to implode. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
they
no
are.
offense, but SSP is one of them. That stuff's imploding. Those people are arguing.
Man.
It's going like, whoa.
It happens in all the communities.
Yeah,
Trust
and
me, I've been a part of all of them.
Right now, that's a big one going on right now. And I was hoping that wouldn't happen like that. That the people with different types of contact, that we'd all kind of come together and make the tapestry. But you got so many egos involved in things, and look, it's like I've been saying for a long time. Somebody asked me, I did a presentation for the panel of color for the John Mack Institute about a week ago. And, you know, somebody had asked at the end, they say, you know, why do you think that happens to you, and why is that? And I said, something I want to be known, that I am not special. Unique, yes, but so is everybody who has contact, and I believe 80% of our population has had contact. I've said that since you met me. And I think it happens on the level that most of us can't remember, but it does. So in that way, I'm nothing special. It happens so much, just some of us have a different conscious memory of it, you know, especially those of us that go through it physically. And it's about bringing all this together, not fighting each other, but that's happening because you have these ego thing going on. You know it. I mean, both of us have dealt with people that that was people we worked with, and those cats couldn't wait to throw a knife in our back.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man!
Well, you know what that showed me, though?
It was so sharp it came through my entire.
Well, that's because they were threatened. I mean, people have come after me who have tried to slam, you know, throw my name through the dirt and all that kind of stuff. They're threatened because, I shouldn't say this, but they're getting exposed. Okay, it's not being so truthful, and I'm going to leave it right there, and let's move on. Okay. Let's move on.
I'll just say I'm sorry you've had to go through that, because I went through it a lot, and I was hoping that you would be spared that agony of harassment, but you weren't. So
I kind of enjoyed it. You know, actually, you start riding the wave of it, and it's kind of actually gets kind of fun after a while. It's like, okay, who's next?
But you said you don't like roller coasters, didn't you?
I love roller coasters.
Oh, you do? Okay, yeah.
I don't like heights. Yeah.
Oh, I don't like heights. Okay, yeah. That's cool.
I do. As long as I'm strapped into a roller coaster with a seatbelt and thing, I'm good. I don't like heights, but I love roller coasters. So,
you know, when I was younger, I did that. Something I would never do. It. If I was older, I wouldn't have done it. It was at Worlds of Fun. That roller coaster, you stood up on it. It was a standing roller coaster. It didn't last very long. I think somebody got hurt on it or something. They come to the thing, come down like that. That's it. And you go ride that thing, man. It was I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It was Worlds of Fun.
I like the ones that flip upside down the best. That's my favorite. So, yes, I'm an adrenaline junkie. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't know I was, but I love roller coasters, and I do like chasing monsters in the woods too. So,
that right there, Victor. Man. You could put that on a fortune cookie, man. I'm sorry, that sounded corny, but I mean that's a great. That's real. What he's saying. I think that's the same Victor from a couple from the conferences too. What's up, Victor? I think.
Well, okay. Well, let me just kind of throw this out there, because I saw one of our friends, Matthew, had put a post on Facebook today, and he was like, what did he say? He was like, a lot of like disinformation agents and stuff, and that's true. Like when we're so close, in my opinion, I think we're so close to like really getting some answers with some of this disclosure when it comes to, I mean, what you and I are talking about tonight. And I've never heard anybody talk about this. Okay. I don't have my ear to the street on this all the time, so I don't know, but I've never heard of this ever. And for this to be something that could bridge the gap to real ET contact. And I think some of us here are ETs, okay, but to civilizations of ETs, okay. Let's not talk about like just the humans who are the people who are here in human form who are from other planets right now, because there are a lot of us out here, I'm sure. Okay, I'm talking about real straight up civilizations where we could teleport, we could do whatever to go meet these other civilizations, go back to the homeland for some of us. You know what I mean? I don't know, but they're here to bridge that. That's why they're here, and they're just waiting. But that's the thing. They're sitting there observing, and they're waiting. And it seems to me like they're not going anywhere. They'll be here for millions of years if they have to be. Is what it sounded like.
It's exactly. It's things like like I mentioned a place that happened to me at SETI, seeing that holographic mountain, and just tripping out. I mean, it's one thing to sit up here and say, "Oh, the holographic principle," and Stephen Talbert was contacting all this other stuff. That sounds great, but man, just when I saw that, it blew my butt away. I mean, I was like dehydrated, like when you're dehydrated, like on the westerns, they're chapped like down here. I was dehydrated like that, But I mean, but the fact is that pushed my perception so much further forward. And the fact that something like that is going on, and it dealt with the holographic principle, but my God. And then the things that I had gotten when I went through the hypnosis to find because I had to know, what did my superconscious get from that craft? Because I was trying to tune in and I couldn't fully get through. You know what I mean? So I know, but during that time, you're getting stuff on the superconscious level, the subconscious level, that's going such a fast vibration, you hardly have a memory retention of it. So I wanted to know, what did I see on board? And what's really interesting is, I can't even mention this, but I did a regression with the gentleman that I had that experience with, not all that long ago. And he saw something on there different than me, but in a different area, probably what that craft is. Yeah. And it was a trip. Types of beings that actually do reproducing through these ponds, and like almost plant type beings. It was fascinating what he was saying. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the stuff that we're going on, the beings we're dealing with, and something I got in that regression is that they were saying beings like us, like you and me, it's dangerous for us to go down in that city that you remote viewed that is down there in Sleeping Lady. Remember that?
Sleeping Lady, mountain range. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The underground city.
I think that's a giant.
I've seen it in a regression, but then you saw it in the remote viewing. Another one was blind targets. Yeah. But they were showing me walls that looked a lot like basalt. And if you ever look up, there was a structure used to be called the Pumpkin Palace. It's a cave, the Pumpkin Palace. Look at how the basalt is very thin, like in these different formations. Okay. The walls in that city are similar to that. And they were communicating to me that for someone like you and I, our negative emotions can actually shatter walls and structures there.
Ooh, kind of like 11 on Stranger Things, all those mind experiments they were doing. Montauk.
I've never seen that.
It was just based off the Montauk project.
Wow.
Basically, they had telekinesis and telepathy projects and things like that going on, and similar to like the men that stare at goats too. They say that in that movie. I think like they're trying to put a goat to sleep or make it pass out. In real life, what they were doing to those goats, right? Well, I heard they were making their hearts explode.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But I'm just saying, if a human is capable of doing that, that's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. And I don't anybody ever try that. Okay. Don't ever try that. Anybody. Okay. But I just want everybody to know how limitless we are. We are more than these human bodies, more than these human meat suits. We are limitless beings. We are souls having a human experience right now. Okay. And so I'm the kind of person that I want to push everything to the limit and see what all I can do before my time here is done. Okay. I just want to experience everything. I want to do everything and have fun doing it. But explore, tap in, y'all. Tap into your psychic abilities.
That's what we're here to experience. Yeah. We're feelings. to experience feelings and experience things. And then the trick is to figure out death and the hidden clause in there that is you don't have to lose your life experiences when you go back to the Creator. Mm-hmm. And the thing that this book calls The Mind of God by Ray Hernandez and everybody, what Carlos Castaneda calls the eagle, okay, and Don Juan and Toltecs call the eagle, what the Egyptian Book of the Dead calls the duet, okay, which they say is actually in between the magnetosphere and what are you laughing about?
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at this comment. I just saw this, Scott. I know what the Crystal Palace is in Atlanta. You should not have brought that up. That's funny. Made me laugh. It's a Crystal Palace. It's a club.
Somebody drive me past that. Does it look like Disneyland or something?
Oh my God. It's down. I think it's in South Atlanta. Don't even bring that place up. It's worse than it's almost as bad as the Claremont Lounge. Okay.
Oh,
God.
You see, you just wipe my. I was saying something before they just wiped my mind. My mind just.
Scott. How would you even know about that place? That's my question.
I'm talking about Pumpkin Palace. That's not a Pumpkin Palace. That's something different.
No, it's something different. Let me tell you, Scott. I gotta say, like people talk about the Crystal Palace up in the sky before. Like they talked about, like the Crystal Palace in the sky, and I always think about that Crystal Palace in Atlanta, Scott. So, okay. Every time that comes up, I feel you, Scott.
Well, hey, you want to know something that takes the jokes out of that?
What's that?
When you go up on death to the first, what the old Uranta book, wherever I have that thing is, what it calls the mansion worlds, what the Tibetan Book of the Dead calls the Bardo, okay? And the mansion is supposed to be the mansion worlds, the Bardos, all that. But when you get to the first one, it describes in that Uranta book as there being this crystal palace, and there being crystal palaces there.
Oh, really?
When you look at several of the near-death experiences, including the guy who came up to talk to me at LA Life Conscious Expo, he was the next speaker after me. He came up and talked to me, and somebody I kind of respected. I didn't know Daniel Brinkley. He described when those beings, he was floating in the abyss at first. He didn't have enough spiritual power, he felt, to move. And the crystalline type of beings came and got him, the light beings. And they took him to this other place where there were these crystal palaces, and he was flying by them. My brother has had some really interesting OBE where he's seen something like that too, at a place where life was just growing instantaneously. And that was way before they had AI as we call it now, okay? He's different than me. He can pop out of his body a lot. He has these weird experiences. He's a musician. He gets these vibrations, and they take him out sometimes. So it is what it is. Anyway, but just thinking about, put it to you like this: people like Daniel and others that have seen these crystal palaces, where we start reconstituting our energy. There's all sorts of different forms for energy containers, and that Uranta book calls it the Morontia level, the Morontia body, Morontia. We could call it a lot of other things, the etheric, the energy body, yada 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 yada. Like somebody mentioned super consciousness. Yeah, I like that term because there are all these others: the divine overself, the higher self, the divine self. There's all these different terms. I just like super conscious. It's a little bit more, scientific. And anyway, but anyway, these crystal palaces, people that have seen them have said the same thing. A lot of people said, we see why they get the idea for some of those huge, beautiful Roman cathedrals. They're based on these crystal palaces that have been seen.
Oh, well, they were healing centers. Okay, that's what Bryce was telling me when we were walking through Marietta, Georgia one day with my son and her friend that has a yoga studio out there, and we went to John Benet Ramsey's grave over there, and we did some other stuff too. But we were talking about the cathedrals, and she was telling us, and I think that we've talked about that maybe with Gerald and Jane. I think Gerald's in the chat tonight, and Jane talking about how those cathedrals were actually healing centers at one point. They may have been repurposed as religious centers, like churches, but before that they were healing centers potentially because the pipe organs, the music, the harmonics of the sound frequencies and everything that you can get out of those big buildings. So
I have
could
heard
have
that.
been.
I've heard that, and I've heard that actually the bells themselves were making this. Oh gosh, there's a name for it. It's not direct energy web, something, but it's just it's a name for what they were. It's not Tesla Tower, but what they were doing to make a network of all the bells together was to make this healing vibration throughout the whole planet. And there were so many of these cathedrals, the big ones, that's what they were for. Oh gosh, that's called something. I'm sure somebody in your chat knows, but that's much sharper than me.
Schematics or something, or cymatics. I mean, that may not be what you're talking about.
I don't think it's cymatics. No, it's like, you know, like the same way you have the Tesla Tower and the Tesla wireless energy grid, the whole thing he was doing. Yeah. This is the same, but he uses those bells and sound instead of the way Tesla was doing. But it's similar to that. It's it's called something. I should be able to kick that off.
It was Tartarian, probably from the Tartarian Empire, for entertainment purposes only tonight. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman, what's up? He says, them old world churches are all on ley lines or create artificial ley lines.
Wow. I've heard that before. Pretty interesting. I think that goes right along with it, and that's maybe why. Gosh, they're called something sound conductive.
Let's see. I don't see anybody in the chat knows. Let's see.
Somewhere I've got something like that written
Let's
down.
see. There's ether energy or aether energy right here. That's not it though, but thank you. Okay, Joe has a good point here. Church bells keep reptilians away. I've heard that too. I've actually heard they keep demons away. And I think I made the comment one time that maybe that's why they got rid of all the church bells. So, you know, I mean, it would run all the bad politicians out of town.
Let me ask you in the chat a question.
Okay.
Have y'all heard many times that saying, and I'm not religious, it's just what I've heard, that chanting and saying Jesus Christ keeps Sasquatch away from your house? Have you heard that before?
I have not heard Sasquatch, but I've heard that when it comes to aliens.
I've heard some people saying that Sasquatch were tormenting them. Yeah. And they come out and they start going, in the name of Jesus Christ, get out of here, don't come back. And they leave. They never come back. I mean, I
would make an argument for the Nephilim, right?
I ain't touching it because, okay.
I know, right? You and I always stay away from that. If you notice that, you and I stay away from that topic. We do.
I tell you though, just for the here it is. Just for the record though, I advise everybody. I did a video over this. It's called The Nodites, Nodites. This book calls what we call Nephilim. It calls them Nodites. It describes them quite thoroughly, about them, what they were, where they came from, all that stuff. It's worth anybody looking at, and also who they bred with. But what we call Nephilim is they call them Nodites in here. And I'm starting to wonder something, Jessica. I don't know. I'm gonna get some apples thrown at me or whatever it is is it onions or carrots? What is it they follow? Anyway, my brother said, man, when I first moved to LA, man, Prince came out. He was warming up for another group. He was unknown though, but he came out with these camisoles on and these high heels, and people were throwing stuff at him. They were throwing fruit at him and throwing all the stuff at him. He was getting hit hard. He's looking at me. I know it hurt bad, bro. God, it hurt bad.
Yeah. He was such a good entertainer, man.
Yeah. He's unknown at that point. He was warming up for another group, a well-known group. He was a totally unknown, but they said he came out with those high heels.
He came out with stilettos on him.
They were screaming at him, throwing big stuff at him.
Yeah. I think Dave Chappelle did a great imitation of him on his show. That's great. Blouses. Okay, but anyways.
Isn't he still riding across the world with Norman Reedus?
I don't know.
Anyway, sorry.
I have no idea. I don't know. Thank you, Scott.
You would have seen it. He's the guy from Walking Dead, Ride with Norman Reedus. He was riding with Dave Chappelle all over Europe. Anyway,
well, let me take a commercial break real quick because Scott, thank you for gifting 5 Cryptid Huntress memberships to the audience tonight. Thank you so much for that. And congratulations, everybody who got one of those. I appreciate you, Scott. I saw your comment about dating the bouncer at the Crystal Palace. What?
See, there's a Crystal Palace.
I tell you what.
What's going
That's in
on?
Atlanta. It's not the same Crystal Palace that you're talking about, Barry.
Is that like a Mustang Ranch? Is that what that is?
Oh God, I don't even remember. I don't even know if I ever went inside that place. It's somewhere you question your life choices once you roll up in that place. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. No offense, Scott. No offense, Scott.
But of course, I never went there. Anyway, let's. What were you talking about? The no diets, was it? Or I don't want to ask you. So,
I still have more data. You know, I still have more data. Right?
Go over. I thought you were done.
I haven't finished my data yet.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I still have one last target. We never went over it. This is the one with the what looks like what we're talking about tonight. This one. Yeah, it's just one page because listen, I got tired. I was in a hurry too. So I just have one page of data for this. I only went to stage 3 on this one.
Saying the bee birds you out. The bee dub birds you out.
I was burnt out. Well, I was just, look, my son's had testing all week at school, like his milestone testing. So we've been going to bed early and getting up really early every morning and stuff. And I just,
milestone? Is that like the Iowa test of basic skills? They still do that crap.
Yes, but it's in Georgia.
I hated that test.
Yeah. So, well, he's been getting a good breakfast every morning and going to bed early at night. So it's a good thing.
Unless it was the judge or intelligent. They'd be like, don't mess up an Iowa test of basic skills. They'll say you're stupid.
Like no pressure, kids.
Yeah, no pressure at all on that,
I know, it's ridiculous. But yeah, some people were asking about like you're trying to figure out what that phrase was about the bells and the sound that it puts on. It's about Schumann resonance and things. I don't know if that's what you're thinking of, but
no, there's an actual name for the contraption, the bells themselves and how they unite together. There's a name. It's not Schumann resonance. It's something like a name of a technology. You know what I mean? Exactly.
Okay.
I'll find it. I will find it. I've got it written on some of my notes somewhere. So.
Okay. That's great. Okay. I'm just kind of going through the chat real quick. Okay, here, I'm gonna pay attention to this real quick. Yes, reptilians and demons belong in the same extended family. I'll be darned. Okay. I don't know. I've had people come at me after these reptilian shows, like complaining that like we're making out like reptilians are all bad. And so I'm not. I've been told that they're good reptilians too. Okay.
You talked about the show with me. You talked about that several times.
We've talked about good ones too.
People, I'm not pro-reptilian, but man, and you've got the Sirians too, who are not supposed to be negatives like the Dracos.
Oh, that's right.
And they're reptilians also. Then you've got the Nagas, the serpent beings over here. How much do people keep these things separate? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Okay, Okay.
I agree. That testing sucks, man.
Maureen, I'm sorry I missed that too. Maureen gifted 5 Cryptid Hunters memberships as well. Thank you, Maureen, so much. I appreciate that from you and Gus. Thank you so much. That's sweet. Okay. All right, let's go to this one real quick. Okay, so some of my sensory data. We're coming up on an hour too, so we might as well. What is that? Oh, my signs are falling behind me. Sorry. Okay, my Bigfoot signs. Hold on, excuse me. My dog's trying to get a little spot to sit in. Okay, so this is interesting data right here. So some of my sensory data, I wrote down illegal and displaced. Illegal, displaced, round, but I picked on something round, something straight. That's where I wrote the round and straight. So that's where I wrote so round and then a straight line through it. So round and straight, divided, rough, blinded, and bright. Something blinded, bright, agreeable, bounced, and mesmerized. Okay. Now, for the analytic overlay, like I kept saying like something is off. I kept feeling like something is off with this, like whatever I'm looking at. Something's off. It's already something's off, out of whack, out of place. Assured. I wrote down inner. I was picking up on like some kind of interplanetary data. I wrote down interplanetary, and interplanetary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and I wrote down inner Earth. So interplanetary, inner Earth, and interplanetary. I wrote down never forget, and I wrote bounce back. I also wrote down unforsaken and unforgiven. Up is down, down is up. Is what I wrote down. I wrote upside down, and I wrote that circle with the line through it, and that was it. I ended the session right there because I don't know if I got interrupted or something happened, and I just had to go. So that was a quick one. But I think that's kind of interesting, though, right? Like, I kind of picked up on what it looked like, because in that video that you showed that has been in the chat tonight, and the one that pertains to this target, they're showing it as more like a round. It looks like a globe. The ship looks more like a globe than anything. Right? It looks like a little planet or something.
Spherical.
Okay.
Spherical.
Okay.
And I think that when dealing with, I think the inner Earth concept, what are you seeing a connection there? With perhaps beings that are running or helping on that ship being from inner Earth, or are they taking beings from inner Earth and training them like they do us? What do you think? What do you make of that?
Okay. Well, I'm the woo-woo lady, so I'm thinking of interdimensional travel and stuff, and I think that there's just an interdimensional aspect to a lot of this, and that's what I'm thinking. It's kind of multi-dimensional thing. I mean, maybe they're physically coming in and out of inner Earth. I mean, I personally believe that UFOs come from inner Earth and ETs and everything. Now, I don't know. That's just me. I don't think they all do, but I think a lot of them do. I just think I think it boils down to like the quantum realm. Okay, that's what I think.
Yeah, you've got, like I mentioned before, the dimensions of Earth are like the layers of an onion, much more than just the 4, 5, 10, 16. There's a bunch of them. And it doesn't take much a different vibration for others to start being able to come through, or those that just have mastered that. And I mentioned before, when we detonate something like a hydrogen bomb or atomic bomb, that rips the hydrogen molecule, it rips through dimensions. And how many, I don't know. But imagine you've got a pretty much a utopia Earth. It's just great here. Even a Jedi would stop here and not say, waiter, check please, and keep going. The Vulcans would stop here. Everybody would stop. It's a utopia. Like they try to show the Federation and the future of Star Trek. Okay? But then all of a sudden, boom, Australia blows up, or England, somewhere, because in another dimension, they're warring, and it's done come through and blown up a place here. We've got a peaceful society. How many scout missions are you going to send through the rift to see what the hell's going on? Right?
Hey, did I freeze up just then because my internet just?
I thought maybe I did.
That was me. I looked at all my devices here, and it was me, definitely me. Yeah. So I'm sorry I missed that.
You didn't hear what I was saying about
Cobb County?
The last thing, Cobb County, that guy was driving all crazy.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm sorry. Every time I see Cobb County, I think of you. I was watching those videos where those people are spitting out all the time and driving real fast. The idiots. But they're doing that right in front of police. The police sheriff takes off after them.
Oh, they've been doing that in Georgia. Yeah.
It says Cobb County on there. I was like, boy, boss man there.
No, actually, yeah, it's I'm just gonna say like street racing and street stuff like that has gotten really bad in Atlanta. I try not to ever go to Atlanta. I used to live in downtown Atlanta. I lived in downtown Atlanta for 20 years.
Oh, and wow.
It's just, yeah, I lived there for 20 years. Yes, I did. And so I'm old. I'm an old lady. All right, getting there. But it's just, gosh, it's just crazy. Like just driving down the interstate, going through downtown. I try to bypass Atlanta if I can. I just do, and go on the outskirts of it, and take back roads, because it's like driving on a NASCAR track, like for real. And I drive an old clunky truck, man. I'm not trying to drive fast with my big old ATV tires and stuff. You know what I mean? I don't have my slicks on. I don't have my racing tires or anything. So, I'm in an SUV. So I don't like driving downtown, because they've got like racing clubs and Hellcat clubs and all sorts of stuff. It's a little dangerous. And motorcycles. Those guys, it's just crazy. But anyways.
What about Atlanta
they're
Live?
All heading down to Crystal Palace.
It's a good club, Atlanta Live. I went down there and I heard Jodeci there. Probably was at 98.
Oh, that had to have been Club 112 or something, man. I don't know. Okay.
So going back to craft. So I think now it's a chance. I want to see what comes to this, because I think a lot of people have had experience with this thing, and it may not be quite, what people are hearing in far as like, SSP circles and stuff like that. There's similarities, but it's not the same thing. And I think it just will help some people to relate. Like I said, when I had clients that were describing this, I was tripping, because certain things they were saying, I could actually identify with what they're saying in this video and some other things. And when they're not describing it as a negative experience, none of them were. They didn't feel it was negative. And that's decisively different from what's going on from some of the manipulation and the targeted individual stuff. So I think we just need to get all the cards on the table. You know what I mean? And they're not right now. The media skews things one way.
They do. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. Let's just talk about this for a second, because this is wild. That one case in Queens, New York, I think it was in Flushing Meadows or something, the old zoo where all the animals were found dead and mutilated, then highly covered up UFOs were seen the night before. What?
I'd like to see a link to that or something. That's pretty interesting.
I've never heard that before. But you know what? I'm gonna look it up. We're gonna have to look that one up. That's wild. Thanks for the info there. That's something to look into. I don't know.
Well, heck, you were just doing one of the Pine Barrens the other day, right?
I did yesterday.
I try not to laugh, because on General Hospital, Sunny Corinthos, they've been putting people in the Pine Barrens since the early 90s, man. You do something
like dumping ground?
Put you in the Pine Barrens. Yeah, dump your body out there. And it's like so many, that's like a real deal. Capone did that all the time, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, it is a dumping ground for bodies. It is. So is Lake Lanier, though. And I talked about that on Monday.
Years and years ago, I started hearing a lot of giant Thunderbird reports from the Pine Barrens. Are supposed to be there. We're seeing the Pine Barrens quite a bit. Hey, something else I was gonna mention is that when it comes down to we talk about disclosure a whole lot, and that's coming up a lot, but I'm noticing that, like, when certain information people aren't really getting into, they want fantasy. When it comes to the people that are running disclosure with the government, and the government's disclosing and pressing them and dealing with that, who are these people? YouTube, on Facebook a few days ago, I put up several organizations, and nobody looks at it, nobody cares. You know what I mean? But who are these people that are really running that, and who's funding it? There's something called the UAP funding organization. Look at them. Look at the people who are running that. Another one called Soul, the Soul Foundation, SOL. And I put links on my Facebook to all that a few days ago. Another one, the Galileo Project. And they're governing all this stuff that is right now, who's giving what information, and they're doing all these different things legally trying to get disclosure. I think that needs to be identified more, and those people need to be looked at deeply. It's the same names that keep coming up all the time. You know what I mean? It's a very small community of people that's doing that. Another one, the National Nautical Academy, the people that are worldwide, but it's a small community that NASA and any space organization has to pass through these people if they see something out of the organism or ordinary. Have you even heard of them? The Academy of Space Astronautics?
No. Are they funded by our government? Where do they get their? Where's the paper trail go?
Good question.
Money trail.
Good question.
Rain has a question. Yeah. So, do we have a spacecraft, Jessica? What do you? That's for Barry to answer. What do you think, Barry? We're talking about our target for tonight. Do we have a spacecraft? Do you believe that this is real? Right?
What do you think it is?
I think it is. Yes.
Yeah, you already know what I think. Yeah,
Barry does too. Yes, we have a spacecraft. We have a gigantic. It's half the diameter of Earth out there.
And what I want to know, since it's dealing with holographic virtual reality stuff, I want to know, did they go in the positive contact deal, or was it the negative? Since an alien agenda all the way around. And
I was picking up on the tax, but I don't know.
And I'll tell you, those clients I've had that describe the place, they weren't even into the UFO thing, but they find out during these hypnosis that they're contactees. It's amazing how often that comes out. You know what I mean? But then they start describing going to this place. and being there and going through this training and these different mental exercises, practicing their telepathy, practicing psychokinesis if they can do it. You know what I mean? Practicing love, being told things about love and about getting each other's backs. The things that the Zimbabwe children were told. Protect the planet. You know, when you look through, it's amazing now since you and I started really talking about that even more. How many people are hitting me up and saying they had a schoolyard encounter?
A lot, yeah, a few.
It might be that common, but I didn't think it was quite that common. But it might be. You know what I mean? He's got 70-some cases in that book.
Well, you know, and here's another thing too, is that a lot of these memories get suppressed. And you being a hypnotherapist know all too well, a lot of times we shut those memories down. We don't remember. And then something will trigger a memory, right? I mean, isn't that kind of how it happens? You know, you hear about it and you're like, oh, wait a second. I remember that. I had that happen to me when I was a kid. So there's also that aspect as well. It probably happens way more than we could ever imagine. Way more. And we just don't remember. Those men in black come out with their little pins and do mind wipes on everybody, probably.
You know, that's only so much of a joke, though, because they do have ways of wiping people. You know, heard a few different things on that. Maybe not quite as cool as that, but they hit people at frequencies. So I've been listening to a lot of binging on a lot of Sasquatch stories lately. And I heard one, I almost sent it to you last night, but since you sleep and I don't, and it was probably about 3:45, I'm listening. I said, I won't send it to Jessica right now. Even your time is only like 4:30.
I was about to wake up.
But one I'd sent you was about the Bigfoot named Big Sky that was the grandfather's best friend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did you listen to that?
I listened to part of it. Yes. Yeah, you did send me that. That was you. I think you sent me that while I was in Tennessee. Actually, you sent it to me, and I didn't have internet when I got it. So when I got a little bit of internet, I did listen to a little bit of it. Yeah.
I would call your bluff, man. It was the day before.
No, I must have gotten it. Well, I must have gotten it though. I didn't see it. I didn't see it until I was headed up to Tennessee.
I tease you a little bit. I'm calling bluff on Joe Jones is trying to bluff me, y'all. She didn't watch it.
I'm gonna look at it. I said I watched a little bit of it. I didn't watch the whole thing.
Just kidding. But seriously, this is on actually. I think it's Bigfoot Case Files. It's a Bigfoot project, but it's called My Grandfather Had a Best Friend, Big Sky, the Bigfoot. It's called something like that. But the story of how the Bigfoot actually, how it always came, the guy, her grandfather, he's Native American, said that they were buddies always since childhood. And because the grandchild asked, don't you get lonely out here? He said, how can I get lonely when my best friend comes and sees me almost every day? And it walked up when she was there watching, or he or whatever. But anyway, the way that they described the way that Bigfoot gave him the berries, how gently it used the hands, press the berries in the hand, and how it was a friend gesture. And that was just such a unique deal. But then one day she's going up there or something, and the Bigfoot jumps out in front of the truck and yells and slams its fist so hard on the truck that it buckled it. And saying, I can't believe he was so gentle all the time. I can't believe he'd do that. Then he got behind the truck, and what they said was they didn't know Bigfoot did that. It pulled a King Kong, started beating on his chest and screamed in a world that just vibrated everything, and it went off into the thing. Oh. Well, when they go to the cabin, their grandfather's dead. He's laying there dead. And they see the tracks going into the place like the thing always did. And they said, I erased the tracks because I didn't want them to think that the Bigfoot did it. And so I realized then it was grieving. Him and Grandpa are best friends. And they've been hanging out every day since they were childhood. He said, I can see some gray. Grandfather's 75, so they could see some gray in the Sasquatch too. So he was grieving. And I think that's very important to be aware of things like that, of how we're just feelings. Or some of the other things I've heard, like they'll put a piece of hair and clothing in certain trees, and the Sasquatch will take it and cure their allergies or some of their ailments from a distance with herbs. Yeah, that's, it's stuff like that I think shouldn't be just so swept under. And are these really Nephilim, or are they something different? And that's a story given to us that discredits them and our ability to connect with them. One other thing, okay, so this other story, same channel, and a woman is describing as a childhood seeing the Sasquatch, and they play together a lot. And then describes, this is the grandmother's journal this person's reading, and says that they started getting naked in front of the Sasquatch, and they were so comfortable with it. But then when they were like losing time, and then they wind up having sex with it, getting pregnant, and lost the babies. It's a fascinating deal, and it's not the ones that
I was worried you were going to go there with that.
Well, when you listen to it, it goes there. The person reading it saying that. I'll just go that way. But but here's what's weird. After that and the birth and everything, the woman said, "Of course, we must have had sex. I can't remember it. And every time I was around that being, I lost a bunch of time.
Oh,
and it was pleasurable, but I lost it. Little things like that, though. What is it about, and certain things that some people say, well, what is it that makes them make everything go quiet like that? And when I say that, I know when a large predator in the wild comes around, most things go quiet, but not the insects normally.
No, the insects do. Oh, yeah, they do.
Around a big cat? Not that I've heard.
Oh, any kind of big predator, yeah.
The insects stop too a lot. I know the birds and other animals do.
No, but the insects go. It goes completely mute. There's nothing, and it's happened to me several times. And one of the last times it happened to us. It actually happened to us this past weekend. As a matter of fact, out in the Smoky Mountains, it happened to us. On Friday night it happened, and then also. Let's see, when was the other last time it happened? Well, it happened. I've talked about it on the show, and when Robbie was out there with me, and we were screaming over the crickets and all the bugs that were making all this noise, when we were literally yelling over the bugs, all the sound of it. And then the bugs stopped, just completely went deafening silent. And he and I were still screaming at each other. And we were like, ugh! It was one of those experiences like, oh my God, like what just happened?
I didn't know that, no. I've been in the presence of a big cat, and all the animals stopped, but the insects did not. So I don't know. That's interesting.
When the Bigfoots are out there, everything stops.
Everything stops.
Everything stops.
And I mean that's something that me from the city, I figured that out. I mean, when I was sitting by one of these ponds and everything just stopped. I mean, even it started with the frogs. Those were the ones with the look like Dizzy Gillespie. What do they call that? What toads are those? Those are toads, right? Are they
toads?
They go like Dizzy Gillespie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
they get it's actually their throat does that.
Yeah. So,
throat.
Yeah. I mean,
little frog cheeks.
Yeah, they find the cricket stop. Yeah, that's Dizzy Gillespie. Yeah. There's actually something called, what is it? The hooter fish. That does that too. Blows. Take a look at the hooter fish and Dizzy Gillespie. They look like twins, yo.
Oh my gosh! Anyway, frogs actually put off. If you put a frog in a pond, if it's sitting on a lily pad or it's in the water, and they put off that vibrational frequency, whenever they're doing whatever that sound is they make. You can see it. It makes the ripples in the water. It's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. I used to not be a fan of frogs when I was a kid, but.
You didn't like no Kermit, man? You went down with no Kermit?
I liked Kermit. Let me tell you what it stems from. And going back, doing like healing work and stuff, you got to see like where all my childhood traumas stem from, right? And that was one of them.
Frogs.
That was one of them. I know. I'm laughing because it's kind of funny thinking about it, but I never really liked frogs too much. And because when I was a little kid, I got my mom bought me one of those blue plastic swimming pools at the local store or whatever. And we went. She put on the garden hose and was putting water in it, and we went inside the house while it filled up to put on my bathing suit. And I had to have been so little. But I still remember when we went back outside, the water hose was still running. The pool was full, and it was completely inundated in little tiny frogs. And it was just, I was mortified. And I never liked it because I was freaked out. They were jumping all over the place and getting on me. It was just, ugh. So yeah, that was one of my kind of a fear. I guess it was kind of a fear, I guess, but it was just more like I was grossed out by it.
I saw something with my mother when I was a kid that she was convinced similar to when it rains fish, and it just storms so hard. And when it's over, there are all these small, we live by a creek, but there are all these small frogs all over the place. I mean, on the street, on everybody's yard. And then they were like, I don't know, 5 minutes later, it's like they were all gone. It was so bizarre. And my mother always said, it's like they couldn't have got swept over, that rained them. And I don't think they could stay here because of the vibration difference. My mom had said, stuff like that. That's weird. The deals where it rains fish, and they don't live very long. And I think it's more than just you have a tsunami or what do you call the wind, the whirlwind that picks them up,
a tornado,
with a cloud, and then puts them in. Not really a tornado, more like a gustonado, the whirlwind. They get caught in the whirlwind, or tornado too, I guess, but they pick it up and carry it somewhere else. Yeah, because sometimes those storms that happens, there's no tornado present when it rains fish or something, or supposedly. I haven't heard that happen in a while now, but just interesting food for thought always. It doesn't take much for these dimensions to overlap or just a pocket, and that could be somewhere where there's like ocean, and it's a pocket in a storm. You know what I mean? It's really interesting when we start dealing with possibilities like that.
I just had another memory, okay, and I had completely forgotten about this. I'm gonna have to ask my mom about this because I just remembered another thing, because y'all were talking about tadpoles in the chat, and I was with my cousins or something. I was somewhere, and I guess we had like those red Solo cups sitting around, and I think I had like some Coke or Sprite in one of them, and I went to go drink it, and I drank tadpoles because somebody had put tadpoles in a cup. I picked up the wrong cup.
You drank some tadpoles because you feel swimming around in your stomach?
I did that. I don't know. I'd forgotten all about that. And I started seeing those things. I was like, wait, that's another childhood trauma right there. Yeah. Yeah. I had
I'm surprised you're able to. Did we do a remote viewing of the frog man? Did we do a frog man? The giant frog man?
And I probably had baby frogs inside of my belly at some point from drinking them. I don't know.
I gotta tell you, you're from the South. I don't really like frog legs.
I've eaten the frog legs.
They taste. You like them?
They're fit. No, I don't like them. They're fishy. It's
they taste fatty. I didn't like them at all.
No, they're fishy chicken with slimy outsides. I think they're disgusting, personally.
Yeah,
but not disgusting. I'd eat them. Listen, they were flavorful, but they were just fishy. And fishy chicken is just not a good combo for me. I got better things to eat than that.
They taste like straight fat to me. I didn't like them.
Yeah. You know what? I actually went to I went to a fancy lunch one day. It was very fancy. My friend Emily's house. This older lady. She's since passed on, but she lived in Buckhead. And we went to her house for a fancy lunch. It was like a tea or something, and went over there. And I think my grandmother was with me as well. And we got there, and I was like, oh, it was really nice. But the main course, I remember when she opened up the platter thing, and it was like frog legs. And I was like, what? So it was kind of like it was just something special. She figured that none of us had ever had frog legs, I guess. I don't know. And I ate them. I kind of had to try them, you know what I mean? Kind of felt like I had to. I'll try anything once when it comes to food. Okay.
Oh yeah, well, some places in the world they eat rats. They say it tastes like stringy chicken. Did you try one of those?
Oh God, I know. I won't do that. No. I will not knowingly do that. Okay.
We
don't know what all people are putting in our fast food now and stuff. Okay.
There's an old movie called Of Unknown Origin, and it was the guy that played the original RoboCop. What's his name? Oh gosh, Christopher Weller, I think. But it's called Of Unknown Origin, and he's an architect in New York, and he gets this huge rat in his house, and he tries to set out a trap, and it catches the babies, and so the rat made war against him. It took his cat and hung it over his
that's horrible,
refrigerator. It was bigger than the cat. Yeah, and he said, "He killed my cat," and he started obsessing about rats.
That's horrible. The rat did that.
They're having some Danish hens,
Oh
And he
my
said that they say,
God.
in the Philippines, they have to eat rats. They taste like tree chicken. Everybody's looking at him.
Oh God.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what? When it comes
Way
down to it,
before
it's
his
good to be able to eat that. If you're starving, I'd eat something weird. Okay, I would eat something weird. I don't know.
But you wouldn't eat, what is it? Your
I
audience
wouldn't
said
eat
last night,
tadpoles again.
we didn't eat no butt meat. What'd you call it?
Butt meat.
Alive, the movie Alive. What'd you call it?
Frozen butt meat.
Yeah, frozen.
Oh man.
Oh man, that's one of those movies you just don't forget, man.
They are lucky that guy had not been taking his no acetol pills. Just saying.
Something to
Oh my
something
God.
maybe mention too about this. Next time you talk to your SSP crew people, is some of the similarities maybe between this lenticular craft and also some of the stuff that was happening on the missions they were doing, that the Contact of the Third. Oh gosh, Richard Dreyfuss. What's the name of the movie? Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Richard Dreyfuss. There's supposed to be a program that they say that was mimicking. I hear things like Serbo and things like that. You got other people saying no, it was something different. So I don't know. But when you deal with actually kind of the system of it, this lenticular craft sounds somewhat similar in some ways, but on a non-corporeal level. So I just find that interesting, how many of these different programs there are and how many of them are more designed to implement people in a negative way versus those that are positive. They can't all be positive, but they can't all be negative either. So
yeah, that's right. It's a mixed bag. They can't all be bad. I mean, gosh, I hate that you said that's a wild story you told about the Bigfoot and the lady having the missing time, and then she was potentially pregnant by a Bigfoot and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's so weird. Like, just the missing time aspect of all of these contact experiences that people have had when it comes to ETs and any kind of cryptid. But you just don't know what's really happened. You know what I mean? And I have definitely had close ET contact before, and so it makes you wonder. It's like, what in the world? Why are they here? What are they doing? I can't say I've never said any of my contact experiences were negative. Like, it was just kind of indifferent. You know what I mean? But I don't know. What is the purpose of all this? That's the question. What is the purpose of all of it?
The way that story was described with the woman and the Bigfoot when she was a kid and all that, the mating and all that. She said that after that, she had lost the kid. And after that, the Bigfoot completely changed on her from being this nice creature to being super aggressive. And it started assaulting her horse, like slapping it in the throat and stuff, in the neck and stuff like that. And she had to get away from it. And, but when they're describing the other part of it, to me, Jessica, it sounds a whole lot like when someone's in the company of a vampire. They go into that kind of thing the vampire puts on them, that hypnotic kind of thing. They're kind of out of it.
Yeah, cryptids can do that. Cryptids can do that. We've talked about it. It's been in the remote viewing data with some of the aquatic cryptids.
And it's, it makes you it makes you somewhat curious at what point that begins and ends also.
It does.
You know what I mean? And, something else that when mentioning that story about the grandfather that died in the house and the Bigfoot was screaming and stuff, the way they described that, the King Kong thing, you know what that reminded me of? Well, you wouldn't know this, but your audience would, some of them.
I might.
It reminds me of the Klingons. When a Klingon dies, that's they grab and they go, oh! But I mean, seriously, it's a warrior's code thing. And it sounds kind of like what that Bigfoot was doing on top of the grieving. I just find that fascinating, very interesting. And at what point of it, which one of us is really the hostile species? I think that's pretty obvious. We called it Nephilium, and they're demons. But what are we? Maybe not all of us, but we've got these soulless people walking around down here, these people that don't love, You met some of them. There's something wrong with these individuals. I don't know if they're for sure soulless or what it is. I'm not gonna go that far. If the NPCs, whatever,
With the
there's something
humans.
wrong. They don't know how to love, but they
Oh,
sure
shoot.
know how to hurt.
Well, yeah. I've had close relationships with people who had no empathy in the end. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, maybe they were reptilian. Just saying. I don't know.
Man, if you lost that much time, you should be getting regressed.
Yes, Moondog Davis. Barry does that.
I lost almost 20 hours of time on 4 different experiences that were adult onset only. And it's about 4.5 hours each time, a little over that. And man, and as weird as I was for years, I was against hypnosis. I learned how to do it, and I still was against this. I was like, I'm still not one of those people, but I still can get those memories back. Like self-hypnosis, I put other people under either rapid induction, instant induction, really quick, but I couldn't do it to myself. So I started tripping out. You know what I mean? So I was against it, and finally I said, okay, I'd go sit down, lay down, sit down, let somebody else do me, that I have a rapport with and could trust their credentials and go like that. But you're missing 20 hours of missing time. I recommend getting a regression. Several of them, my friend.
So 20 multiples. So that's like a full day is missing. That's wild. Oh my gosh.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I probably need to schedule a regression with you sometime, Barry.
You should.
I know you've been kind of hint at it pretty often. I guess you should get it.
When you're ready, we'll do it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same way. Certain things we haven't done. We haven't done that. You haven't fully taught me. You haven't taught me your style of remote viewing yet. Certain things we haven't done, but it keeps it like a balance. The lady with a balance of scales. I think it's kind of cool because it gives us a good way to look at the information that's not tainted as if I was another viewer. You don't have to worry about that part of it. I may be a psychic and stuff, but it's a different system to a degree. So.
You know what I mean? Cool. I think we work well together. I do. Okay. I have a lot of fun doing this with you, and
you've got such a great audience. It's so strong. I think some of them might be able to reach out to that craft and have an encounter with it. It's all on a conscious level. It's a conscious event, whether it's partially manifested, multidimensional, or whatever. It's a conscious event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where really all this stuff is taking us right now. They're all conscious events, even the cryptids themselves to a degree. I think that's why none of them can be caught.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how, I don't know, gosh, it's kind of like we're all going back to the Sirian Lenticular Spacecraft and how that video was saying that they're here to wait for humanity, like the consciousness level to rise, and for us to be able to the goal is to manifest at will. Okay, manifest, and I talk about manifesting all the time. Okay, and like how to do it, and let's manifest high timelines and this and that, and I talk about telepathy and using psychic abilities, and kind of share my skills with everybody, to kind of inspire people in a way, and that's the goal. And it's so interesting that there's people from so many different communities and different backgrounds that are talking about the same stuff we are. I think it's cool that my background's cryptids. You know what I mean? So like I'm over here in the cryptid community talking about telepathy and stuff because it's so important. This is an angle that we're taking, but it's encouraging everyday humans in our everyday lives to tap in like the cryptids do. Okay, to our psychic abilities, our telepathy, all that kind of stuff. The cryptids have been doing it for a long time. We need to learn from them. We need to do what they're doing.
Remember from them, because we're naturally a telepathic species, but you know why we're not, right?
Because we have telephones.
No, because then you can't lie to people the same.
Oh, that too.
People the same. It would change their entire society. Like right. when I did my bachelor's, I did my thesis on like serial killers, and man, it was when you start realizing that that's actually a disease, first from my home city, one of the most notorious serial killers of all time was there. Okay, BTK.
Ooh.
And when you start looking at actually the profiles, like some of them saying it's not just that they're hearing the voices and all these other things, but it's actually a disease that spreads. When BTK got caught, you have like 5 others that start their careers. You know what I mean? And when you start looking at it like that, it kind of changes the way you view these things. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't for like the negative self and these negative identities, and that type of evil would not be so easy to function around here. If we had telepathy, it would not be so easy. Because they say, like, when you start studying that, when before one of these killers, either they're already killing or they're gonna be, they, like, every day they have several people that they come in contact with, they think about murdering. And somebody may have, you read that thing about Ted Bundy, that lady that wrote that book, Stranger Beside Me. She's working at a telemarketing place with that cat for a long time. They was going out for drinks after, and he was kicking it and hanging out. She's talking about how charming he was and stuff, how intelligent he was. That cat was leaving her and putting on a cast and knocking chicks out, man. He was sick as it comes. You know what I mean? But by the same token, his whole thing, he got caught, and you have all these others coming forward. It's really it's just creepy to me, that we live in that place here. But if we were all telepaths, that person that's seeing you every day thinking, oh, there's Jessica, I'm gonna murder her. Or kind of like, what is it? Let me think something a little more positive. Hansel and Gretel, okay? They would have known that witch was going to push them off in the oven, and that was the whole gig from the beginning. They would have known that telepathically. You couldn't hide that stuff as much. You have a maniac like that walking around our population, they're going to stand out to all of us telepathically. You're like, oh my God, this is Cousin Jack the Ripper. You know what I mean? So that's another reason they had to dark forces had to get rid of our telepathy so that doesn't happen. And I've said it before, all these reasons why people are not magical. And if we didn't have the negative self and negative identities, you start realizing you're an energy being and you're generally positive, this whole world would be different, Jessica. Everything.
Yeah, it would. It would be. That's why we need a whole community we need a whole civilization of psychically switched on humans. Okay. What's up, Riley? I got Riley in the chat today with Midwest Mythos podcast. Riley was with us up in Tennessee this weekend. So he's actually, I think you're going to be on my show Saturday night. He may be one of my guests, y'all, on Saturday night. So thank you for being here, Riley.
Have you mentioned what all happened in Tennessee?
I did. Well, and I kind of did. I was going to wait until Saturday night. We're gonna have all the guys on the show Saturday night. A bunch, not all of them. I can't fit everybody on my screen. Okay. But some of the fellas are going to come on Saturday. We're going to talk all about it. We had a lot of stuff went down, and And while I was out here hanging out with Cryptid last Saturday night, they had even more stuff that happened. And we have some video actually of some real time encounters with some at least 1 or 2 Bigfoots that ran up on the camp while they were videoing and stuff. So we may be showing that Saturday night.
It makes me wonder too, what kind of song and dance done out in the wilderness summons them also.
Oh, that's what Cryptid and I were talking about. Mark was here Saturday night, and we had mentioned he was talking about the information about the shofar that's been going around and stuff, and he was one of the first people to ever bring that up, and we talked about that Saturday. And that's that resonant tone. It's like some kind of tonal noise. It's like a vibrational resonance that I think it opens up a portal or something. You know what I mean? And definitely, that throat singing, that Mongolian throat singing that people do, that brings in cryptids. We had to be careful.
Really? I believe it.
You had to be real careful with that stuff.
I told you that chanting, that Sasquatch chanting I was hearing at that ranch, it sounded to me like a mix of Gregorian chant and like some sort of Native American music. It was like this mix.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, I think that a lot more needs to be given attention to really how dancing and singing are actually technologies. how they've been used to activate some things that are like ancient sites, not just, what is it, Amura, where there's the sound door. I think there's, a lot more going on than just that one, I think. And it's I don't know, it's real fascinating. And Native American elder told me when I was much younger, he said to me, Barry, do you know what a magical animal is? No. It's an animal that has no routines. And such an animal will never be trapped by hunters.
Oh.
He says, so thus one of the first premises of having a magical person is a person with no rituals and routines. They don't even put their belt on the same way, the same day, the same way. And I noticed that when looking at him, like what were we doing? We were like changing outfits, and he put his belt on like the opposite way. You know what I'm talking about? Like the reverse way. Never seen anybody do that.
It's like putting the toilet paper on the holder the wrong direction. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that is the age-old deal, and that some of them put it on the top, the other put it on the bottom.
It goes on the top.
You like, but one of them I don't like. I'm not going to say it, but one of them I don't like, and I can't believe people actually put toilet paper.
It has to go on the top. That's me. It's got to come up from the top and go down. Sorry, I don't.
Where it tears, it doesn't come off top right. It never comes off the top right. You get these sorry pieces that tears off. Oh man, it unrolls uneven. I don't
as
like
I get
that.
older, like the less I care about it. I don't. It honestly doesn't matter. But if I had a preference, it would definitely go from the top, not the bottom. I'm just saying.
By the way, I think they're having problems in the International Space Station. It's decaying.
Okay.
Just food for thought. Again, it was only supposed to be serviceable so long. And, I think people should pay a lot more. We talk about portals all the time, but people should pay a lot more attention to the amount of space junk there is floating around this planet. When you start looking at those nano satellites and that nano satellite grid, how many of them were not self-replicating and self-repairing? They're just this junk floating around or orbiting our planet. If you ever look at that, that's a map you can look up. Space junk floating around Earth. And
Space
see all the
junk.
pieces.
They have a website where you can watch it?
Not a website, a map. How much of it are orbiting Earth. Like you can look up the nano satellite grid. You can look that up too, just how many of them are really going around. They used to have once a year something called the Nano Satellite Challenge. And when you start dealing, supposedly they were all ran by a system called Mother. That was also a system that dispatches material as well as a motherboard for them all that allows these nano satellites to be self-repairing and self-replicating. And that takes us into what, taking just a step forward to what we would call in science fiction Van Neumann probes or Bracewell probes. A Bracewell probe is what 2001 was. That monolith, why so many people are doing this monolith scams now. That thing came to the moon first, then one came to Earth, and they waited for us to become like Type 1 civilization and reaching out into space, and the monolith started communicating with us. Because before that, they just stood there and the apes were around, ooh. They weren't even Sasquatch, they were something totally different. And they couldn't make no sense of that thing, and it just stayed there until we became a Type 1 civilization. Van Neumann probe is one that is self-replicating and self-repairing and more negative. And then you have a berserker probe that comes to destroy an entire planet or total civilization for recolonization. Bracewell probe, Van Neumann probe, and berserker probes. Look them up in science fiction. Fascinating concepts.
And now we have the Sirian Lenticular Spacecraft, which is sitting around waiting for us to start manifesting on demand, all becoming the magicians that we were born to be. Okay. We call it, I say magician, but it's really just having our natural God-given abilities. Okay, using that. And and we were talking earlier about the communities fighting and all that kind of stuff, and us getting attacked by people, and we put the truth out there, and how it's been an uphill battle, clawing to get up here to talk about what we know and things like that. Well, I've always been pretty vocal about. I'm not vocal. I don't talk. I don't waste my time talking about it usually, but if I do, I'll tell you. I got more attacked by people about the remote viewing aspect of what I do, and tapping into my psychic abilities and doing that. And because that's the threat. Okay, yeah. That's the threat. For whatever the forces are that don't want us to move up. They want us to stay small and to control us all and doing this and that. They don't want us to tap into our psychic abilities. That's the big threat right there. So
and let's get to the fact is it's important, because a lot of these people we know that claim to have these abilities, or that you see claiming this, well as I do, when you meet them in person, they ain't got shit. Sorry, they ain't got nothing, man. They don't have any of the abilities that they say. Oh, I've seen you get upset. We won't even go into that. People that say they have abilities have been trained when they have not. You know what I mean? And they say they can do certain things that they have not.
That's a small percentage, but yes, you're correct.
A little bit of Barry Littleton of you comes out, and right now I can tell you, your body language has kind of went down a little. You're trying to avoid it. You want to stand up and go, "Yes, B, I don't like that."
Don't do it, Barry.
I mean, no, it's just I'm just saying, but it's serious. Seriously,
you're right.
On a serious note, though, it's important because we have a lot of these people that have all these attachments, all these issues, and they claim to be these healers. And they wind up coming to other people. Like I've had a lot of clients like I went to such and such or somebody, I'm not giving any particular person, but just I did this session with them and I feel worse. I think something got on me after that. That's starting to happen a whole lot. Or I have now I'm at a point where it's a trip, because I have a lot of hypnotists coming to me for sessions. And a part of me is thinking, I've tripped out, because I'm like, man, I'm not a QHHT practitioner. I'm sorry. No offense to people that do that. I think that's great for them, but it's a little suggestive. And I've seen some people using some techniques that I don't think they all do it, but I just wasn't into it. I've not been trained in that stuff. The systems I got are my own. You know what I mean? I had to develop them myself after certain workshops and training and learning and studying it. So I get tripped out, like somebody could try to take it from me. But really, it's not just me. It's about the knowledge and about the work itself. You know what I mean? But I think it's a big deal when you see that, and people doing this and they can't help me, but somebody tells me, they come like this separate. Oh, I don't have anything attached to me. I've done my shadow work, Barry. I've done this and that, and I know the protection, this and that. Okay. And then we do a session, and they got like 10 of them mugs on them, 10 dead people on them or so. And we get done, they're looking at me going, oh, but that was real. I can't believe that they got through. Well, they got on you before you even knew how to protect yourself. They've always been with you and you didn't know it. You know what I mean? That's very common. Out of all the people I've done Earthbound Spirit Release, I've had one person that didn't have any attached to them. Just one. And you know what?
Yeah.
They ran when I was coming. I caught them by surprise and got them and crossed them over. It's not about that. They just know. They can see us. You know what I mean? And especially the ones that someone, whether it be earthbounds or the others that are influencing them, which these negative inorganic beings that are still on that fourth type dimension or whatever dimension they're on, they can still interact with and influencing them. You know what I mean? And all they need to do is influencing them with our religions. Don't go into light, because not just these people out here told me it's a recycling factory, but because
well,
because they're scared. They think that they can burn in hell. They've hurt people. They think it's hell, and there's reasons like that. And when dealing with that, these things, real quick, Jessica, like this mind of God thing that I pointed out in Ray Hernandez, the eagle that Carlos Castaneda talks about, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, how it talks about the duet. I mentioned earlier, I'm sure it was just a little bit ago, that how they actually think that it's the magnetosphere that is actually the void that takes our mind, and the deep dark black sea of awareness I've talked about.
Wow.
And once you get beyond that to the magnetopause is what you want to get to. That's where you start having access to all the light and all the creation and everything, and you can start making, you know, that's forming actually, and this is what the Toltec's talking about, is actually taking your dream body, your energy body, and for the inorganic and forming it into a type of inorganic being. And the Isis thesis is saying that you would take that and turn it into a star, and that the stars are actually representing of DNA of God throughout our universe. I mean, there's certain techniques, like what are the clauses between during death, like recapitulation, remembering everything in your life, taking that energy back, and you make another coat that when this force, the mind of God that takes our mind, our life memories, or the eagle takes our life memories. Part of death wants our life experiences, that part of the creator. And then as immortal souls, we wind up wiping ourselves clean to reincarnate because we have to learn how to do it again. Immortal souls, you know about everything. You see, these are things we need to learn. These two tricks I just talked about, recapitulation, trying to activate what the Isis thesis calls, that deals with our junk DNA, our uncoded DNA, which is a large amount, and how it's actually, when you look into that scientifically, you know, most of our uncoded DNA is viral and bacterial. And I'm automatically, when you think that, you think, ugh, because they have a negative connotation. But bacteria-wise, we have in our body something called the phage lambda. And the phage lambda is light-based. And it's something like they will try to accumulate and shoot into somebody to kill other bacteria, okay? So it's a positive bacteria. But what it does is there's two things. You've got what's called lystic, Lystic cycles, and also lysogenic cycles. And lysogenic cycle is like when a virus gets on something and injects its code into the cell, it goes dormant. But lysistic is when it jumps on something and injects the horizontal DNA into the gene. That gene, that other cell, the cell explodes with other cells with the same genetic makeup. Okay? Phage lambda is capable of doing that. So what some of the Isis thesis says, that during the mummification, okay, we have something around us called a microcloud, okay, which is actually the microbes that we have around us all the time. We leave a cloud of it, including our DNA. It's still active even after it leaves our body to a degree. So what the Isis thesis says is that the pharaohs were trying to mummify the body and using those textures in order to delay part of the death process to allow the phage lambda to actually activate and activate all the cells so that you can stay conscious during death and not lose your life memories. And it's real interesting when you start really looking deep at how the phage lambda and some of these bacteria actually will do this horizontal gene transfer. They look at the protein will wrap over and it looks like a Rosen-Eisen bridge, a wormhole. And we've talked about how some of these yes, it looks just like what I talk about the Makos. Okay, you've got that going on at the microcellular level with proteins and bacteria of the body and virals of the body. I mean, that's pretty important to really try to understand that. And some of these little clauses that are in death that allow us to, I don't know about you, man, I like who I am. I'm not trying to just go to the creator and lose everything and do all this again and come back not remember. Yeah, I know I've lived before. I remember some things, but not everything. Not like I'm in full cognitive ability like I am now. That's where it's at. And that's what you don't want to lose. So there's different ways of doing that and different ways to trick the mind of God, the eagle, in that you don't lose your your life memories. Recapitulation, I feel someone's saying, talk more about. Okay, it's a breathing technique from going left to right that you actually visualize. Everywhere we go, everything we've done, we leave energy. And you start breathing that back to you from right to left side of awareness. Okay, and you do that, and it means you're creating with your imagination, creation, everything you've been in, every bit of energy, bringing it back to you. And what happens when you go through the death process, the mind of God, quote unquote, the ego we go through that takes our life of memories when we die, will actually take the recap and leave your soul life memories intact. You know, and that's when you come up to something like somebody like, if you've ever read the book Autobiography by Paramahansa Yogananda, sorry. You know, he talks about how his last life he died, and he was conscious in the womb during the process, and he was born, and he was trying to tell people, you know, basically, I'm this bad cat that came to help, but nothing's come out. But where? He's just crying. He had to wait for his body to develop so he could talk.
He was trapped in a baby's body.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
God,
you know,
that's gotta be terrible.
I think Buddha said that reincarnation is hell. I don't fully agree with that. It's a choice. And so far yet, I don't want to repeat, we've done on other shows, but Jessica, still, I ask everybody in these regressions, hey, is the light making you reincarnate? No. They look at me, they sit there like I'm a dummy for even asking. Well, how about your guide? Is it they're making you go over there? No. These other souls over here, do you have to reincarnate with them? Is it a contract? No, it's an agreement. We're helping each other.
Yeah.
So some of these terms and classifications we use and the work I've done doesn't hold up. And believe me, I didn't want that to be so. Everything a fool changes the facts to fit their opinion. An intelligent person change their opinion to match the facts. Yeah. Try not to be a dummy. Anyway, 4 faces of the eagle. Yeah. Wheels of Ezekiel. Also the 4 faces, the 4 winds, like the 4 aspects of a female too, and things like that. The 4 faces of God too. Yeah, definitely. 4 parts of us: mind, body, spirit, negative self. People don't want to quote the negative self. They just keep it at the other 3. You know.
Oh my God. Yeah, gosh, I always learned something on every single show I've ever done. I swear I've learned something. That's
the fun part.
This is interesting. It's the fun part. That's why we do it.
And what Moon Davis says there, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I'm not Muslim, but got to give credit. You know, Farrakhan's quite genius. The man's quite genius. And when I started hearing that, I was like, I said this were in 1991. He was saying he had this experience on board. He said it's the wheel within the wheel, like Ezekiel, but it's above our earth. And it's like what did he say? It's teaching and doing things like that. That's what he said. And if you watch that video, they said that sometimes that lenticular ship is between Earth and the moon, and sometimes it's above us. So, you know.
Wow. Thank you, Adam Ra. Yeah. Barry the teacher. You are Barry the teacher.
Not hard, not hardly. I'm not a teacher. Right there, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a guru. I'm not a therapist anymore. I'm just a brother. I'm a man of knowledge. I'll say that, which is a big deal. We got the internet now. You know what I mean? So it's not a big deal. But although I'm none of those things, I'm not a cult leader and nothing. None of that. Right now, that's the thing. People are coming in everybody's sites because you got these people that want fame. They don't care about the knowledge. They don't care about the information. They want fantasy and they want fame. The dub
those numbers.
And people like you and I better get the hell out of the way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like everybody's in a rush in their lives to go in circles. You know what I mean? We go in circles our whole lives and we're in a damn rush to do it. And you better not get in the way.
Don't stop me from chasing my tail. Yeah, don't get in my way. I'm chasing my tail, Barry.
So any more thoughts on the craft? I'm glad that you enjoyed the target, despite me being a Benedict Arnold. strictness about it. But
no, listen, like I said, you're way worse on some other targets. And I don't mean worse as in bad. I just mean like wanting me to get deeper into that, like the missing persons one. But it's because this is important, and it turns out that this really is important. And if it's bridging the divide and bringing humans and extraterrestrial civilizations, we're not talking about just like, hey, let's go meet an alien. Okay, let's bring an extraterrestrial into the craft. Let's meet a person here. You know, they're talking about taking us, like letting us go visit and them come visit us to different civilizations. Like we're going to be doing interplanetary travel, intergalactic travel between us humans from this planet and other planets, other dimensions.
Isn't that so much better than the slavery thing?
Yeah, so much better.
And that shows like that Star Wars was our past, the Galactic Empire, the wars, and Star Trek is our future. Federation type of stuff. Or might as well say it since you come up in the data and other targets are done. The Galactic Federation, I still don't think that name. But I think the classification, like I said before, some people say they're evil. But you know, you do have when looking at who is it that was trying to help those children, who's doing a lot of this children, who's so interested in the children, who's that cares about the planet and cares about us, who is it? And when you started coming up, that's who you came up with in the blind target. You started getting that name. I mean, I had to accept that. You know, I always laughed at people before because they're like, that's a Star Trek ripoff. It's worse than the Ashtar Command. Even the alliance I deal with sounds ridiculous too. So I can't say nothing really, but not quite as bad. But it's cheesy.
Hey, you know your stuff about it though.
Barely, but I'll tell you, just the more I learned, the more questions I got, you know. And it's I think right now is extremely important time. I think what you're doing remote viewing is the way that there's more galactic communication than any other way. I think it's going to go to even another level. You know what I mean? Like, for example, you know, that one I've showed is it's in the like the belly of this ship I was on board. And it's like some sort of an observation deck. But, you know, some of the beings down there had these stations. They were like standing up in these stations. Okay. And, you know, that time that I was doing B.S. Thines, it's called the dog exercise, the dog breathing exercise. It's a Kriya pranayama, pranayama exercise. And I was doing that, and it looks funky, okay? All those breaths look funky, but this one you get down on all fours and you arch your back like your American Werewolf in London. You, ow! No, it's not that. No, he was just screaming when he did that. I remember he was screaming real hard. I was watching John Landis the other day. Anyway, but point being, when you get down and do this this breath, and it has to do with hanging the tongue out like a dog and breathing like a dog. Panting. And it creates the saliva in the back. It's a very powerful exercise for breathing. Okay, and after doing that breath, I started getting really like blissed out kind of. And when I got done doing the breath, I'm laying there in a dark room, and that's when I saw those beings that were remote viewing me. That's what I would call it. They were definitely spying. And you know, when I tripped out. You don't understand, man. I'm sitting like my eyes are closed, and I can see these beings plain as day. It's like everything's bright. Open my eyes back up, and it's a black room. Do it again, and then there they are again. I did it several times and started tripping. I started like, what the hell is this? And then they started being aware. I was aware of them. And I was getting this like, oh, damn, he just caught us type of deal. And then I lost it. I just turned the light on. I said, forget all this, start doing some protections. And it made me think of how many times do we have civilizations and beings that are watching us like that, because really all of us are that important. Mm-hmm. You know, I mentioned earlier on this show I did with Kim earlier, I was saying, you know, you have this system where you have a person that sees a UFO and nobody else can see it, or maybe one other person. And you're thinking, what the hell's the matter with you people? It's right there, right there. Everybody's going, where? Oh, you see it, but the fact is, it's a type of a contact that occurred on the
Mm-hmm.
superconscious or subconscious level in just a millisecond. You know what I mean? And you don't think that, okay, there's not a whole, heck, we're talking about Star Trek, a whole federation, all federation, a collective consciousness that would stop what they're doing to just communicate with me individually.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening.
Yes.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we are limitless beings. We're all important. Every one of y'all.
Because we're energy beings. Exactly.
That's right. That's right. And speaking of important people, I do have to go get my son to bed because we've had testing all week at school, and it's getting late. So this has been a fantastic show, Barry.
Hey,
so
thanks
much
for
good
doing
information. Of course.
Thanks for doing it with me. I got too excited this time. Probably talked too much. But thanks for tolerating me. Thanks for tolerating me during the whole viewing it, and I appreciate you. Thank you. And I'm sure this is probably cool. I'm sure this will help somebody or give information to somebody. It's not a meaningless target.
It's different, y'all. It's different, and it's wonderful. And just to think that we do have, when we did that target of the orbs over the crop circles, and I had that message from for humanity. Remember that? It's like, we appreciate your teamwork. Thank you for your teamwork, and thank you for what you're doing. Don't stop. They're like, don't stop. We know you're tired. We know you don't want to be here, and you're tired, but we're here. We're here. We're here to help. You just can't see us, but we're here. Maybe, just maybe, it could have been the Sirians up in that lenticular spacecraft that were communicating with me.
The most
They're waiting for us.
The most emotional I've ever seen you get on any target.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's comforting to know that we have people, we have beings, consciousnesses that are rooting for us, and they're waiting. They're just waiting, and they're just waiting. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Humanity is going to be. They're going to be manifesting again soon. Maybe not all within our lifetime, but maybe.
Hey,
I don't know.
One thing I want to say real quick. I know we gotta go. Of all the shows we've done, I swear this chat is the fastest one I've ever seen.
It's really fast. I know.
I try to keep up with it. I was just scrolling down and down and down. It's kind of. I think my computer must be messed up, but it's not.
No, it's going really fast. I know. I love it, and we have a whole bunch more of our Hunt Club members in here tonight. Thanks to Maureen and to Scott as well for giving those away. Thank you all so much for doing that. And Skip and Kent and Elise, thank you so much for the donations tonight to the channel. I appreciate you. And I want to thank Steve Wolf, by the way. Steve, I got your PayPal donation. Thank you so much for that. That is so sweet of you.
He sent something to me too. Thank you for that, Steve.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you, Steve. And Jackie, thank you for becoming a member tonight too. And this is, I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. I tell you, this is something that I've never heard anybody else talk about this before. So this is cutting edge, trailblazing information, Barry.
See, that's what's important, because if anybody would have heard about it, it would be you. I know I've always been looking too, and I've never heard anybody talking about it, So now we'll see how many people are experts on it. It'll happen just like that. But
do you think people are going to know about it? After we do the show on it, they'll know about it.
Oh, by probably 2 days, it'll be a bunch of
pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention. Everybody's going to know about it.
Nobody in the chat now or anything.
That's good.
People just come out of the woodwork. You'll see.
Well,
you know how it works.
But see, here's the thing. That's why we do what we do. And I never, I really don't. We put things out here. It's very cutting edge. A lot of the stuff we do is kind of trailblazing. Some of the stuff we do, right? And it's meant for people to embrace and take and go and do more research on it. You know what I mean? That's why we do this.
Yeah,
it's so important. And I love it. And I love it that people are interested in learning about remote viewing and listening to what we have to say and listening to the data, because it'll inspire them to tap into our audience, to tap into their psychic abilities. And I'm everybody's biggest cheerleader over here. And okay, there have been times what you're referring to earlier is people are not real remote viewers. So, well, that's because they haven't had the training, but they claim to be remote viewers. That's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm just cheering everybody on that is putting effort out there and doing it and even talking about it. I think it's great. It is what it is. I've had a lot of training in it though. I really have. And I'm just happy that people are more accepting of it now and just open to it. I think it's a good thing. Cause I did get attacked about it pretty good. I was that witch. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, don't tap into your psychic abilities, you witch. Okay. So that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't care. I'm not a witch.
It depends. Somebody was showing the other day, man, they were telling me, or they didn't know really what I do, but they were saying that reincarnation is evil. It's against God. I was listening to the person. It was quite interesting. They also said something else. They said, man, I think that the world is devilish. And I think it's hell here, and I think it's never going to change no matter what.
Yeah.
And they point out a lot of ways it was hellish. I wasn't going to say, hey, no, you're wrong. That's good stuff. I couldn't say nothing. I just sit there listening, man. It's interesting. Just, it's all about our perspective. It
is. Well, people that are calling people who are tapping into their psychic abilities witches, to me, I feel like, and it's when it's the intention behind it, like the derogatory, angle of it, I guess, is kind of what they're going for. And it's just to keep us from, if everybody's tapped into their psychic abilities, like you said, Barry, you can't get lies past people anymore. And so just look at it that way, y'all. Okay. And by the way, I think Colleen and Belinda, my son's about to be 11 too. We all got 11-year-olds. My son's just about to be 11.
Good number.
Yeah, that's a good number. Hey, I am 11, actually. Okay.
It's just about a year before they turn on you, right? You're still a good friend now, but you're about to be enemy here soon. The teen years, it's coming. Yeah.
11's
Whole
my number,
Breakfast
man.
Club heading your way.
I know, right? Yeah, no, that actually, 11 is a master number. That's my life path number, actually. I'm an 11. So go figure. It's a master teacher number, I guess. So, all right, y'all. Everybody, have a wonderful night. If you guys, please leave a like here if you like the video tonight, if you liked our discussion, and share the video out, and please subscribe to the channel if you hadn't already. Barry, where can people find you? Tell everybody about your YouTube channel and your Patreon, please.
Weirdoville. No, I'm just kidding.
Weirdoville.
I'm on YouTube, or my email is barrylittleton13@gmail.com. Continual problems. I think I've got ironed out yet again from all this spam I get from web designers. I can't believe you get 81 of those a day, 90 of them a day, and real emails get mixed up in there. But that's my email, barrylittleton13@gmail.com. I've also done a lot of stuff on YouTube under Barry Littleton. Please check out the playlist. I'm on Facebook, Barry Littleton, Instagram, Barry Littleton, and Patreon, Barry Littleton.
Trying to type it out, gmail.com. Okay. Here we go. Barry Littleton 13.
That's it.
I capitalized the B on that. You don't have to. But,
/ anti-spam. No, I'm just kidding.
Anti-spam. Oh my gosh. I am listen, my email boxes just keep getting full. I just have not been able to respond to all of the emails. I get so many emails, y'all. I drown in emails. I actually had to open up another email account because my other one was so full. I could not get it to it just kept getting overloaded. So sorry, y'all. It's a lot.
And I found a bunch that I missed in the spam deal.
I hadn't even checked my spam. Oh my gosh.
And then on messages on Facebook, I went to was it Outbox? And I've got, God, man.
Well, it's wonderful though. Everybody, maybe tomorrow I'll take some time to clean up my email boxes, and I'll try to get back to everybody, y'all. I'm so sorry if I have not gotten back to anybody. If you guys have sent me a message, I'm working on it. I promise. I'm working on it.
People say, that guy's a dick. He never responds to stuff that's not
I'm really busy. It's hard to get back to everybody. And but thank you guys so much for reaching out to me and to Barry. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for sitting with us for 3. This will be our longest show ever, Barry. We're about to hit 3 hours in about 30 seconds here. That is a long show, y'all. Thank you for sticking with us all night. And you guys, please come back and see me on Saturday night. I'll be here on the hunt with my crew that was with me up in Tennessee on the last weekend. Drewski with Cryptid Warfare, Harley Owens, Riley and Kevin, and Doc from Prometheus Lens too will be here. So we're gonna have a full screen full of people. Okay, and we have some wonderful. We have some clips to show you guys, and it's gonna be a really great night. Operation Smoke is what we called that one, and you guys, it did not disappoint. So come back and see me on Saturday night, y'all. And until then, everybody, please be safe out there. Have a great night. Go get some sleep. I know I'm about to. Okay. And you guys, thank you again. Thank you for the super stickers and for the memberships and everything, everybody. It means the world to me. All right, y'all. Barry, thanks again for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me. And thank you to the audience, too. Appreciate everybody.
All right, y'all. I'll see y'all on Saturday night. Be safe out there. Bye, y'all.